It's you know what it is? It's the commodification of a hobby.
Yep.
It's a thing that you're supposed to be doing to make yourself better or to make yourself feel better. And instead someone says, oh, you can make some money with this. And before you know it, it's no longer fun.
Yeah, I just used to read books.
You did. Maybe that's the pull quote at the front. Maybe that's the 30-second intro. Hello and welcome to Too Many Tabs, a podcast where a husband and wife duo sit across from each other at a desk. And usually, one member of that duo does researches on a topic and then they kind of lore dump all over the other one for the enjoyment and entertainment of thousands, if not millions, possibly billions of people across the entire galaxy. I know, some podcasts believe that they are only being covered in one nation. Some believe that only people listen to them on one continent. Some are actually intercontinental podcasts, not ours. No, we are among the stars. Too Many Tabs is a podcast for the overwhelmed life and how to come back to the center of it all. We're here to help you become more masculine. No.
White guy with a podcast.
Oh, no.
Alert.
White guy with a podcast. Hit the theme music. I don't know how to do this.
Too many frauds and too many scammers that we wish weren't real. Too many cons and too many spammers, and we're starting to feel like we've got too many tabs open. It's too many tabs. Remember to smile.
That's right. Remember to smile. I know.
We're having a great time.
We're not going to talk about it. We're here to talk about something very important today.
Book club.
Yep.
Mrs. P's book club.
Yep.
What some might say, people are saying, I'm saying, might be some of our best episodes.
Some people would say, who's Oprah?
Yeah, Reese Witherspoon, who?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? I got a book club, baby.
Yeah.
And it's the best book club.
Mrs. Pearlmania, my wife, who's sitting across from me right here, for those of you guys who are new to the pod, is an incredible person who is a voracious reader. Yeah. And I want to know a little secret lore about myself. If you've never listened to this podcast before, if you've listened for a very long time, you might not know this. I hate books. I do not like words on paper.
Reading lame.
No, I read a lot of things,
Yeah.
typically on the internet, typically a skeet, a tweet, an image. I'll read all those different things. But you put it on pieces of paper and glue those pieces of paper together and you put them on a shelf. Sir, that is a library.
You're, number one, a liar.
Yeah.
Because you have read ACOTAR.
I have read it.
You love fairy smut. That's what I've learned from
Okay,
you.
it's not that I love fairy smut.
Then why do you keep reading it?
Because I'll tell you why.
Shadow Daddy rockin' a world.
Because that's the thing. Sometimes you just need.
Fairies fucking. Fairies fucking.
You just need it. You need to hear.
Our soundboard is so chaotic.
I want to say thank you to Grief Cat once again for that
Thanks,
sound.
Grief Cat, for letting us have that sound.
Thank you so much. But listen, we do a podcast, and when that happens, usually we'll do a topic. But
if you look back through our podcast episodes, we have all kinds of things.
Yeah, and we just
the Kardashians,
Yeah.
the Pinkertons.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like things that are very apple cider vinegar.
Yeah, it's called that episode. By the way, a lot of people keep forgetting. It's called right now. It's listed as in 1881, allegedly.
We're gonna change the name of it.
We're gonna change the name of it because that's the episode.
Because originally I didn't want to start with shit with Katy Perry.
Yeah.
Okay. But then she released this flop of an album, and then she went on Drag Race and was fucking insane. Why was she there? Just other than hear her bad album get played. And then number 3, she just posted this picture with her with the new fucking Cybertruck. She's a big Elon fan. Katy Perry, apple cider vinegar. We're gonna change the name of that.
And how she killed Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
Katy Perry
Well,
may have.
no, I don't think she killed Steve Jobs, but she did kill that nun, right?
Wait, hold on.
Allegedly.
That's what that button's for.
We have an allegedly button for a very specific reason.
Again, most people hearing this have heard these.
Yeah.
They know the context. And but in reality, I was trying to think really hard because of current day. We're recording this episode on January 18th, 2025.
4 p.m.
At 4 p.m. And we there's a lot of things going on in the world, and we're like, you know what? I don't want to talk about any of those.
Yeah, I was doing research, and what happens is when you start doing research on things, the topics intermingle, things get a little weird, maybe a little heavy, and I said, fuck that. We're moving book club up because I found this incredible book
Yeah.
at a local bookshop, They recommended it to me, and I said, bet.
Yep.
You ladies, I'm listening.
Yep.
Put it in the bag.
Yep.
And do you want to hold up the book for the people?
I will hold up the book for the people. And the bookshop, by the way, is called Pocket Books in Lancaster, Pennsylvania,
they're lovely
where you went.
ladies.
And the book is called Bored Gay Werewolf.
By Tony Santorella.
Yep.
And I said, in honor of what I'm assuming is going to be a rough 72 hours.
Or 4 years.
Whatever. We're going to vibe out to Bored Gay Werewolf. And I'm going to explain to you this book, which I read and I couldn't put down.
Yep.
It was so funny. And I'm so excited. I've been excited since I closed the book.
And to people who are listening to this at an audio forward podcast, because that's what we are. While we do have a YouTube presence, this is designed audibly for audio listeners on podcasts, either on our Patreon, Pearlmania500.net, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Please, on any of those apps, please give us some stars.
Yeah,
give
please.
us some
Leave a
reviews.
review.
Please, this is what's called a call to action.
We've been told we need to do it more.
Not only have we been told, but like every time we do it, the podcast gets a few more listeners.
And we need that.
And we're trying to spread like a virus. Okay?
No, shut up.
What?
Shut up. And we're going to talk about the book. Are you
Okay.
ready?
All right. I'm ready to talk about Bored Gay Werewolf. You're ready to talk about Bored Gay
I'm
Werewolf.
so excited to talk about it.
We're going to hit our first little break, and then we are going to come right back, and we're going to get right into how we can yiff and howl together.
And we're back.
We're back.
Hey, real quick.
Yeah.
I do know that there might be new listeners.
Oh.
Because we did call to action on that app that we used to do stuff on. And so there might be new people here.
Yeah, it might be first timers.
And so I want to explain what book club is real quick.
Sure.
So what happened is, historically, every time I read a fiction book, I would close said book. I would look over at my husband and I would say, explain the entire book to him. And I would just not let him look at his phone. I said, you shut up and you listen to me. I need to tell you everything that I just read, because he doesn't read fiction books. And then he would just, we'd have a fun conversation while I try to explain a book to him. And then I said, it'd be funny if we did that on the podcast. And lots of people agreed. And the other thing is that I'm going to spoil the book.
Yeah.
I need to say it up front.
You don't have to have
think
read
last episode I even said it.
Yeah.
But I am going to explain this entire book. I'm very much going to spoil it. So if you haven't read this book, just know, number one, that this counts as reading the book. This
Yes.
is like listening to an audiobook.
Yeah, and
you can put it on your
not Goodreads. What's the other one?
Storygraph.
Storygraph.
Put
Fuck
it
a Goodreads. Fuck a Goodreads. If you've taken nothing away from this show than anything else, fuck the government. Fuck Goodreads.
Yeah, we use Storygraph, and also support your local library.
Yes.
Rent this book from the library. What usually happens on these episodes is because of time limitations, I don't really do all the details of the book. So things get left behind a little bit so that we can move the podcast forward. So a lot of times I end up saying, like, you got to read the book.
Yeah.
I don't do them all the perfect justice sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I get lost in my ADHD.
And also sometimes it's like a really long action scene and you just go, and then they ran through the woods. And you're like, no, actually it was super cool.
I'm really bad at explaining action scenes.
But you're really good. But you're really good about explaining the book. And so with that, you don't have to have read the book,
No.
as we said.
This counts as reading the book.
But we are going to start now.
Okay, so the book is called Bored Gay Werewolf by
Yeah.
Tony Santorella.
Okay.
And our story begins in an apartment that could be best described as like a Nordic prison cell.
Okay.
Right? Like, like the inside of an IKEA.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not great, but it's very streamlined looking. There's no art on the walls. It's not personalized in any way, but it's also messy. Like dishes in the sink, pizza boxes, kind of just like dirt everywhere.
Yeah.
Like somebody's living a very messy life. And there's also a bunch of unpacked boxes. Like you moved in into that place. And we meet Brian, who is currently waking up. He's in bed with a raging hangover. And he's reaching over to his nightstand, desperately trying to find a leftover can of Red Bull that's on his nightstand.
Oh, which I just had one
You
of.
just chugged one of those.
I know.
And
it's late.
And he's trying to grab it and pull it under the covers with him because he wants to drink it without opening his eyes.
Yeah.
He chugs the last of his Red Bull and then looks over and checks the other side of his bed to make sure he didn't bring anyone home last night.
Oh. Okay, so he's one of those.
Yeah. He's hungover.
Okay. No, but he's like hungover and like, did I bang?
Yeah.
That's crazy. I just want to throw out there, never had that question in my head. If I woke up hammered somewhere, I was never like, did I sleep with somebody? No, it was always just like, what did I throw up and pee on? That's kind of more for
Everything
me.
around me.
I just want to let you guys know is like for me, like when you're like, all right, that guy, he's got to at least he's over 50% straight because he pees on a lot of stuff when he's hammered.
Yeah.
'Cause I feel like
Outside.
outside.
Oh my God. You can't get him in the house.
Oh, I love peeing
He
outside.
just loves being
Well,
outside.
if you give me some alcohol,
Some fireball, the dude's going to go to the woods.
Oh,
He's going out to the woods.
Yeah.
As he comes to, right, he
Yeah.
starts to remember last night. Too many shots. Ouzo. Flirting with the bouncer. Regret. Embarrassment are all setting in. He checks his phone to see the text from his friends, to find out how much trouble he caused last night.
Yeah.
You know the thing you have to do.
I know the deal.
And he does find texts from his friends, and they're all demanding to know, where did he go? Did he get home safe? Why are you not responding? Fuck you, Brian.
Okay, so that's all right. I'm like 70% the same person. Did you get home safe is probably the most common text I used to get before I met you.
Yeah, before you met me.
Yeah, before I met you.
And I'm like, are you home? And then you
Yeah.
never not responded again.
Yeah.
He's one of his text messages from his friend Nick, who says, where did you go last night? And he breathes a sigh of relief that he made it out in time. He sees that she doesn't know where he went, and he's like, oh, thank God. His other friend, Darby, texts him, you better hydrate, bitch. I'm not picking up any slack for you tonight.
That's incredible.
Brian is relieved, but also questioning himself. The cycle of the moon is literally every month, and he still never remembers and always gets caught off guard. He's okay. It's in the title. I can't hide what it is.
Wait, so he already is a werewolf?
He's a werewolf.
Okay. Gotcha.
And
I was
so-
like, what?
Yeah, usually it's a little we have to like slow burn in.
Yeah.
Brian knows.
Oh,
He's a
he
werewolf.
knows he's a werewolf.
Yeah, he knows he's a werewolf.
Oh, okay.
And so but he's upset that every month he always forgets the cycle, which is, I need to tell you, this is a shared experience with women. There's likely, well, I should say people that have menstrual cycles.
Yeah.
This is a shared experience
Okay.
because no matter you could put it in a calendar, you could use an app. It's surprising every month.
Yeah.
So like, as soon as I was reading him be like, it's every 29 days there's a full moon, how do I always forget? And I was like, no, honestly,
Also,
hard
29 is also a weird number.
hard relate
29 is a weird number. Like, it just is a weird, like that, when it's not like set 14 days, like if it's every Saturday, right? Like,
Yeah.
like when we record the podcast, right?
Yeah.
We usually record on Wednesday.
Yeah.
This week we didn't, it got thrown off a little bit. So like today, there was a moment where we were sitting there and you're like, well, whatever, we'll call them. But, they might be at work. I'm like, why would they be at work? It's Saturday.
and
you're
I was like, oh, I thought it was
oh,
Wednesday.
yeah. Because you just get used to it. But it's the same thing where if it's not fitting into our usual business cycle, like 29 days is so weird.
Yeah, no, but I deeply relate to this.
Yeah. So he knows he's a werewolf.
He knows he's a werewolf.
Okay.
So he starts cleaning up his apartment.
I feel good about that because I was nervous that he got hammered, got bit by a werewolf, and now he's going to turn into it.
Yeah. No, he got drunk last night and went missing and became a werewolf. And now this is the next day.
Oh, I'm getting it now.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe
he Irish goodbye'd his friends to go become a werewolf.
Got it. Mm-hmm. Okay. No, this makes total sense.
Yeah.
I've done it. This is like 90% my story.
This say that up front when you don't know the rest of the book is so crazy.
No, I'm just telling you right now. Well, look, it's Brat Summer Green.
Yeah.
The book is Brat Summer Green, and it's about a bored gay werewolf. And I can't tell you how often
I myself have thought, man, I'm bored.
I'm
gay and a werewolf.
I get hammered, I bark at strangers, and I pee on
in the
things.
woods.
Yeah. Or on buildings and alleyways. That was a joke. Hold on.
It's the allegedly button.
I'm not going down for that. As they build files against me.
No, that was a joke.
That was a
This is a
joke.
comedy podcast.
This is nothing we say here is serious.
Ever. So he starts cleaning up his apartment, and by that I mean he has a big garbage bag, and he's just picking up everything and putting it in a garbage bag. That type of cleaning.
75%
the
my
classic
story.
Alex Pearlman cleaning.
This is my story.
He picks up a plate that has like old spaghetti, and the fork is stuck on it, and
Yeah.
instead of washing it, he just throws both
Okay,
the plate. and
that
the
I
fork
don't
away.
do. That I don't do. Not a real plate.
A real plate.
So I don't use real plates.
That's
When you're
it.
not home, every time you've ever left, the whole house turns to paper.
It turns into paper plates.
Paper
and
plates,
plastic forks.
plasticware, the cups.
Yeah.
Everything goes right out of a bottle. I'm nothing. I'm not.
Yeah.
Because
I
when you're
don't.
home, what exists? What is created when you're home?
Dishes.
So many.
Yeah.
Because you cook.
Yes.
So much stuff. And you're really good at cooking.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Which is
3 meals a day.
Which is why we have our Patreon exclusive second podcast that some people don't know about, Vibing Out with the Food Idiot.
Yeah.
I call it Food Moron, but apparently I'm wrong.
Okay.
You can check out that in the warm-up on pearlmania500.net.
Yeah, we're gonna
Back
do
to the story.
We're gonna
Back to the story.
Okay, we gotta focus.
Okay.
Okay. So he starts cleaning up the apartment, throwing shit away. He finds while he's cleaning, he finds some rolled up bills next to his microwave on top of a plate and checks them for any leftover Coke. Finds a little crumb, rubs it on his gums. Gotta start the day. You know
Not my story. Not my story.
Over here, could relate.
Yeah.
So he decides that today's the day he's gonna start unpacking these boxes.
Hold on. So he's a bored gay cocaine werewolf.
Yeah, I said it was a good book.
Okay. All right, keep going.
So he's like, today's the day I'm going to finally unpack these fucking boxes.
Okay.
They've been there for like a year.
This I can't relate to.
Yeah.
At all.
No.
As
soon
you know,
as we move in,
anywhere,
he starts unpacking.
Listen, if I move into a hotel room, if I know I'm going to stay at a hotel for longer than 2 days, I take everything out of the suitcase, I hang it up, and I put it in the drawers.
Yeah.
I don't live out of suitcases. I don't live out of boxes. The anxiety I get. Oh, my God. Because first thing, when you put things in a box, you pack them to be packed, not to be rummaged through.
Yeah.
So once you start rummaging, you've disrupted it. So why not just take it out?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Brian, get your shit together.
So we find out some backstory about Brian while he's unpacking these boxes.
Okay.
They've been in his apartment for months, like I said, since he moved in to this apartment because he had dropped out of college. He was a really really good student. He had like straight A's. He was going to college, and he ended up deciding to drop out, and it like shocked his parents. It was this whole thing, and he moved in with his parents for a while because, you know, it got really uncomfortable living there with his parents. And he was also tired of having anonymous sex with local married men, but also because he had told his parents the truth that he was a werewolf. And it was like very detrimental to like the way they were coexisting. Like they could accept that he was gay, but being a werewolf was a bridge too far.
Okay. I'm already in love with this book. That is such good. That's such good copy. Number one. Number two, that feels like something out of a Dungeons and Dragons game. They could accept that he was gay, and that every married man in the neighborhood is sleeping with him anonymously.
Well, they didn't know that.
Okay, they knew.
They didn't know.
As new parents, I'm going to tell you right now, they knew.
They knew.
They knew. They might not admit it.
Yeah.
But they're on a subconscious level. They know.
So after he gets done
Somebody keeps borrowing my weed whacker.
Unpacking, he goes to take a shower before work, and while he's undressed, he notices large scratches up the side of his ribs. Now he knows that during his transitions, he does have a lot of physical side effects. You know, his bones break when he becomes a big werewolf. So his bones usually need to reset. He also usually has a lot of stomach aches because he ends up eating like raccoons and foxes. And so when he turns into a human, he has horrible digestion issues from eating raccoons.
Oh, God. Okay. That's so gross.
So,
I mean, at least it's not people.
Yeah, that's true.
That's good. I mean, he's practically a vegan for a werewolf on that note.
So he sees these scratches.
Real quick, I'm imagining American Werewolf in London style transformation.
Yes.
Like with like the bone stretching and the pulling, which is crazy because I never saw that movie first. I saw American Werewolf in Paris first.
Perfect.
Yeah. Shitty movie. Terrible movie. I'm not a werewolf guy for the most part. Just to throw that out there. I'm more likely to watch a vampire.
Love a vampire.
But I do, I'm really into
But
a zombie.
Okay. So he sees this scratch mark. He doesn't know what it's from. He's like, maybe there was a big cat or something. Like he's also running late for work. Yeah. So he gets ready and he goes and he gets on the bus because again he lives in the city. And he hates the bus though because
he lives in the city.
Yeah. Well. He also, because he's a werewolf, he has heightened sense of smell.
Oh, God. Oh, I didn't think about that.
Stinks.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
There's so many people.
Oh. So listen, I love a public transportation, but goddamn does it always smell like piss.
It does.
The absolute worst in Philly was I used to take the subway everywhere, and whenever the Eagles had a big game, the subway smelled like Miller Lite and piss. Yeah. There's no other way to describe it. It was just you'd get in there and it just smelled like a urinal cake. And it was like, some days, one of the reasons I kept smoking when we lived in the city was because, especially in Philly, it's just like I didn't want the heightened sense of
Smoking,
smell.
yeah, smoking makes you not be able to smell as good and not
Yeah.
taste as good. So
It
he
destroys your
couldn't-
taste buds.
He couldn't smell as good.
I couldn't smell. Listen, and when you can smell in Philadelphia, you don't want to. No,
Not in the summer. On
not
the second
and not
subway.
in the especially in the.
Not in the summer.
Nah.
So anyway, he makes it to work.
Okay.
He works at a restaurant called Romanesco.
I knew it. I knew it. I had a feeling he was a waiter, especially because you said the one guy said, "I'm not going to drink some water. I'm not going to cover for you."
Yeah.
But the second thing, the fact it's an Italian restaurant is so much funnier.
Perfect.
Because God damn it. Oh, this is 90% my story.
It's a little,
One of my first waiting jobs was an Italian restaurant.
it's a little restaurant called Romanesco. It's in like the, in quotes, like more suburban part of town. I would picture it as like when you get to like Rittenhouse Square, but also with more families. You know, like
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
it's where the
picturing-
brownstones are.
I'm picturing more like Roxborough in
Yes,
Philadelphia.
okay,
You know
perfect.
what I mean? Like there's like that weird area where like this is where like the actual doctors who have families live.
Yeah. Yeah.
That type of thing.
It's a
Executives.
wealthy part of the city where all the families reside. It's a very quiet neighborhood.
You don't realize it's actually part of the city.
Yeah. Chestnut Hill, looking at you.
Yeah, Chestnut Hill. That's
Looking at
another
you.
one.
So anyway, it's near a big
We're
park.
just naming
Yeah,
Philadelphia
people that are from
neighborhoods.
Philadelphia don't know, but so that's why
We
I
have
wanted to move on.
listeners who listen from Singapore,
Yeah,
and then they're just like, I don't know what.
and
the
we're
fuck
like,
they're talking.
we honor that you're from Singapore.
Yeah, we do.
Anyway,
We
that's
do.
a very specific joke about something we're not talking about.
Yeah, we recognize.
We're not
Senator,
talking about
I'm
it.
from Singapore. All right, sorry.
So the restaurant is near a big park,
Uh-huh.
a handful of hotels that mostly serve tourists and conference goers, but for the most part, the restaurant just serves locals.
Yeah.
It's a basic Italian restaurant. The food's not great. It's not bad. It's not memorable. It's just easy. You go
Yeah.
there and you have a meal. Brian likes this job because it's an easy to get to part of town. The food prices are low, so he can flip tables pretty quickly. He usually walks out with $150 a night. And because it's in a family neighborhood, there's sound laws about
Yeah.
sound noise violations, so they always have to close early.
Got
Which is,
it.
I'm telling you, when you
This
work
is,
in a restaurant,
honestly, this sounds pretty
I'd work
good.
there, baby. If you're out by 10 p.m.,
Yeah.
come on.
Oh, let me tell you, I worked at one of those restaurants.
Yeah.
And the worst part would be you got so used to being out by 10 that when you had to stay to 11, you wanted to kill a motherfucker.
Yeah, you want
Like it was actually better working at a bar where I might have to work till 3 a.m. because I knew at least like I was done. Like when I'm done here, I'm done.
You're not doing anything.
But when I was working till 10 and it was because it would always be too when you would make a plan like, oh my God, we're gonna get here at 10 and then I'm gonna meet you at the movies.
Yeah.
I'm stuck. This table just won't They paid.
They're just
They
camping.
already paid?
They're fucking camping.
Let me tell you something.
Get outta here.
But just to all of our listeners out there, on behalf of the entire restaurant industry, I want you to next time, unless you're traveling, if you're traveling, this is fine because you don't know.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it to you as a tourist, wherever you go and like whatever. If you are in your home place and you're like, oh my God, let's go run. We'll go to this place. And then you call or you get there and they're like, yeah, the kitchen closes in 10 minutes.
Go home.
The kitchen is closed.
Go to.
Don't do it.
Go to
Don't
a
do
convenience
it.
store.
If you
Get
go
a
to
snack.
if you go to a place
Go home.
and you walk in and there's any chair that is up or a section that is closed,
If there's someone holding a broom, you better
leave.
get out of there.
Leave.
Get out of there.
You have
Go
no
and
idea
get-
how many enemies you have made. 2 of them are witches.
Yeah, and
You don't know.
And that whole line of guys in the back cooking.
Yeah.
Oh, buddy, I wouldn't eat that food.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Don't do it.
He walks into the restaurant. He is running late. The dinner rush has already started. Behind the bar is a woman in her mid-30s. She's a heavy-set Filipina. She has a messy bun. She's wearing Crocs. And she is like a ballerina, just moving very gracefully behind the bar, taking care of all the different patrons. She, like, everybody there loves her. You can tell, like, all of her regulars, like her. And as soon as he walks up to the service bar area, which is the end of the bar, she hands him a soda water with bitters, which in the book it says he's never had before. And I was like, that's so crazy. How the fuck are you telling me you've been working at a restaurant, drinking heavy, and you don't know about a soda with bitters? It helps cure a hangover.
Okay.
Anyway, she starts, and as she hands it to him, he's like, oh, I've never had this before. What is this? It tastes kind of bad. And she starts explaining to him how alcohol gets absorbed into the system. So because the bitters have a low amount of alcohol, it will help your hangover.
Yeah.
But she's like, it gets absorbed into the tongue and then it goes into the bloodstream and blah, blah. And this is where we find out that she's actually in nursing school during the day and bartending at night.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Also, yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones where this way the author who knew this was like, and now I get to tell you a fun little fact.
Yeah.
So there we go. If you're hungover, do it. What is it again?
Bitters and soda water.
Bitters and soda water.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
a shot of vodka and Pedialyte. I don't know. Anyway, so she walks away.
Not in a slushy.
Not in a slushy machine.
Not in a.
It's getting crazy out here.
Not in a slushy. Okay.
So she walks away to go help another customer.
Yeah.
And when she comes back, she slaps a newspaper down in front of him and says, "This is why you need to tell us when you are leaving, or get home." And on the headline of the newspaper, it says, "Jogger killed in apparent animal attack. Park officials are stunned. Second attack in 2 months."
Uh-oh. Wait, do they know he's a werewolf?
No. So his eyes go wide, and under his breath, he's like, "Oops.
Oopsie.
Oopsies, boopsies.
Whoopsies.
Oopsies." So he has like this zip of fear that goes through his spine.
Oh, wait, hold on. I just got it. Okay, she was worried that he would be murdered by whatever
Yes.
is killing people.
Yeah.
Not that he's out there eating people because
No.
he's literally a werewolf.
No, she was like, "You never tell us when you get home safe or that you're leaving, and we're afraid you're going to get murdered in the city."
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Gotcha. That makes more sense.
A lot more
Honestly,
sense.
that's a human response. I'm not used to that from restaurant employee industry members. Because usually it's like, what'd he do? Did he die? No. Then why isn't he here on time?
I'm sorry, then why isn't his side work done? Oh, he couldn't do any roll-ups?
Yeah.
Really?
Okay.
Cool. I'm not polishing glasses tonight.
Yeah. Brian's here. I guess that's why we're out of straws. Okay.
Where are the pens?
Yeah.
That one got him. So
Can I tell you,
Yeah.
just real fast, a Bistro Huddy, the guy who runs the Bistro Huddy account,
I
one of
love
my
him.
favorite brand deals he ever got, because every time I see it, is the fact that he does brand deals with Bic pens.
I know.
And he does it as like, people keep stealing my Bic pen. I've just been obsessed with it. And I'm always just so happy for him because he was a restaurant employee and an actor who moved to LA and then like started this Bistro Huddy thing, and it's popular everywhere. And he was such a nice guy when I met him.
Yeah, he was incredible.
And someday I hope to introduce him to you.
yeah, I want to meet him.
Yeah, we'll try.
And so, I'm trying to think. So where did I leave off? Okay, so he gets nervous, right? He's like
Yeah.
a zip of fear
Yeah.
that he's gonna get caught, and then in the very next moment, he's like, "Even if I got caught, no one's gonna believe that a werewolf was running through the park and killed a jogger, because if they reported that they saw a werewolf, they'd end up in the psych ward. So I have
Yeah.
nothing to worry about."
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
He's like, "Nah, whatever."
It's a fair point. I'm guessing this is a world where people don't know about werewolves.
So far.
Okay.
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 So his coworker, while he's like having this inside thought, his coworker walks up behind him and says, "So who was he?" And this is Darby, the one that texts him, "You better hydrate." They are described as a blonde, white femby. And I had to look up what that meant.
Yeah.
So a femby is a gender identity that describes someone who identifies as both feminine and non-binary genders. So someone that goes by she, they.
Okay.
So I'm going to use they pronouns.
Okay.
Because that's what they use in the book for sure.
Okay.
But I looked it up. I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
And so that's awesome. So he walks up behind him and he's like, "So who was he?" And then he turns and looks at Brian. And he's like, "The guy you left us for last night?" And Brian was like, "There was nobody." And Darby doesn't believe him, but he's like, "Whatever, you're lost. You missed a good time last night." Darby sees the front of the paper that's down in front of Brian, and he was like, "Oh, gruesome. I heard that was one of our customers." Now
Oh.
Brian is fucking alarmed, right? But he's
Yeah.
trying to play it cool. And he's like, "How could you know that?" And Darby's like, "I have my sources," but he's like very nonchalant. Like Darby doesn't actually care.
Yeah.
Also, Darby is like,
The name Darby is really tripping me out because there is a wrestler in AEW called Darby Allin.
yes.
Who has very femby energy.
Yeah. And
Who
I was
does-
picturing Darby Allin the whole time.
I know, because Darby Allin has like, he has that hair.
Yeah.
He just has that haircut. It's very short and cropped, but also it's like parted.
Blonde, yeah.
And it's peroxide blonde.
Yeah.
And he has like a bunch of tattoos, but he also does like a half skull face.
Yeah.
And he wears like these like ripped shorts with like leggings underneath. And so every time you say Darby, I'm just picturing Darby Allin.
I picture Darby Allin as well. Except for instead of all of it being like goth, very woodland fairy at a rave. Lavender eyeshadow, lip gloss.
Yeah.
But like that woodland fairy type of raver person.
Yeah.
But Darby Allin. That's how I was picturing him the whole time.
Okay, gotcha.
Them the whole time.
Yeah.
So We learn about how they work together. Nick is the bartender and manager, who everybody likes and respects. The regulars love her. Darby really takes the time to have conversations with each customer, knows all their kids' names, asks them how their parents are doing. Like, Darby is that person at the restaurant.
The one my parents love.
Yes.
Darby is
Well,
Darby is the
people
server.
go back
Yeah, Darby
for
is the
them.
server that my parents love at the 4 restaurants they go to.
Exactly.
I completely, oh
Yeah.
my God, yeah.
Perfect.
No, I got this. Nailed it. Fine. Yep.
And Brian is the slightly friendly workhorse. You know?
Okay. 90% my story. All right. Got it.
They're not
Getting the
gonna-
shift done. Getting the shift done. Getting the side work over with. Why are we standing around? We can leave now.
We're not having great conversations at the table, but you're getting your drinks and food.
And
Goodbye.
a refill. And you were getting attentive service and a refill.
Yeah.
You're getting attentive
going
service.
to remember
You're
the
not
ranch
gonna ask.
dressing.
You're not gonna ask me for a refill. I'm gonna walk up. I'm gonna pick up your glass that is only 1 quarter left to it, and say, "Do you need another Diet Coke?" And you're gonna be like, "How do you remember it was Diet Coke?" Because we put a fucking lemon on it.
Because
We put a fucking lemon on it. So
it's
we
not
know.
for the lemon to go in the drink.
No.
It's so that we know which
So
one's
we know
diet.
which one's a fucking diet. You goddamn
It's for
idiot.
us. Also, if you're sitting in a bar, don't put your hand in the fruit.
I'm
It's
gonna
so
tell
gross.
you. I'm gonna tell you right now,
It's so fucking
Brian.
gross. Keep your hand out
if
of
you
the
order
fruit.
unsweetened iced tea, if you order an unsweetened iced tea, Brian brings you
The little thing of
fucking
sugars,
packet.
yeah.
I don't know when restaurants got away from that.
COVID.
I don't know when restaurants
Yes, you do.
stopped pretend. Hold on, I'm not done. Okay? We need to have a segment that I'm going to cut to move to the front of the podcast as an intro to people, because when they stop on YouTube, this way they get a better feeling of what the show's about. I don't know when restaurants got away from putting the little packets of sugar in the little packet of sugar holder on the table. How come if I order an unsweetened iced tea, I got to spend 20 minutes asking the server over, waving, do I wave down the manager? Well, now the manager might get in trouble with the server, and then they're going to have it back. I don't want to start a whole thing. Just leave them. They used to be on the table. That's going to be a good cut for the beginning. People are going to be so confused. How is this about a gay werewolf? People are going to be so confused. And they're going to get to the 30-minute mark to figure it out.
After the dinner rush clears, Brian is waiting on his last table to leave. They're a flirty couple on a date. He knows this because he has super good dog hearing, so he can hear them even though he's in the server station.
I love its dog hearing.
No,
Yeah.
I
know. Werewolf powers.
Werewolf powers. When Darby comes up, he's staying in the server station, just waiting for this couple to leave. When Darby comes up and lets him know that he's been sad again, and he's like, "What the fuck?" Right? Like, this was the last table, and then somebody comes in late right before closing, and he's like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Oh, he's letting him. He's been sat.
He's been
again.
sat.
Okay, you made it sound just and I know a few people out there probably had the same thing. You said, and he let him know he's been sad again. I thought you were saying that Darby has depression and is just about to unload that. No, sat, as in somebody has been put into his section. Gotcha.
Somebody's been put in his section.
No, gotcha.
And when he looks at the table, there's a 30-something-year-old white guy dressed in what we would call like the finance bro fit.
Ugh.
Pink gingham shirt, Patagonia fleece vest, khakis, and a messenger bag.
Oh, he tips like dog shit.
Yeah. And Darby is like, "Is that the guy from last night, Brian?" And he's like, "No, what?" And he's like, "Well, he asked to be sat in your section specifically." So Darby leaves this conversation to go flirt with this guy at the bar. This guy, we get a description of the guy at the bar. He's a tall, older man with a neat handlebar mustache, horn-rimmed glasses, wearing a 3-piece all-black suit. And the whole reason this is coming up is Brian is like, that is not Darby's type at all.
Yeah.
But Darby is immediately attracted and is like, I'm going to go flirt with them.
Yeah, that is a man who runs a haunted magic shop.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
But we'll get there.
Oh, really?
So,
Okay. I was like,
no, not a haunted magic shop, but that is exactly what he's being described as.
Okay, gotcha.
Brian cannot believe that he's attracted to him because it's just not Darby's usual vibe. So Brian goes to greet his new table, and he's pissed, but he has to try to keep that in, right? When he gets to the table, he's about to greet this man. When the man, as he's like getting his pen and notepad out, he's like, I'm right, but he can't even get it out because the guy says, "Hi, I'm Tyler. What about you?" And there is ancient hospitality lore that if a customer who asks for your name first is the first one to complain. So immediately Brian's on high alert.
Yeah.
He's like, if a customer says, my name is blank, what's yours? You know you're in for fucking hell, dude.
Yeah.
That is just classic across the board.
When I worked in customer service, anytime someone was, and what's your name? I'm like, here we go.
Yeah.
Let me get the back stretch. Let me crack the knuckles.
Yeah.
Let me just get that. Let me just get ready.
Oh,
because
my
we're
God.
in for the most passive aggressive fight.
It's about to get terrible.
Yeah.
Brian immediately knows he's in for it, and the customer tries to shake his hand.
What?
Yeah.
Is he German?
I don't. Nope.
This feels like. Have you ever had a German customer?
Yeah.
It feels weird.
Brian does not reach out his hand. He just keeps his pen on the notepad. He's like, I'm absolutely... Actually, in the book, I believe he says, you're not allowed to touch the dancers at a strip club. Why would you think you're allowed to shake my hand? And I was like, honestly, Brian, facts.
Yeah, bars.
The guy orders a coffee, and Brian
Is it like 10 p.m.?
Yes.
Oh, my God. Okay.
And this guy makes this whole thing. He's like, I know you probably like think it's so crazy that somebody would order coffee at night because like, but I'm just like working really hard and blah, blah. And the whole time Brian's not listening to him. He's like, in his mind, he's like, am I going to have to brew a fresh pot of coffee? Or
For one
how
guy.
mad will Nick get if I use the coffee from day shift and put it in the microwave?
Yeah.
So Brian's having this internal monologue of his like, does he think he can make it past the manager behind the bar without getting caught of using the day shift coffee in the microwave, or is he gonna have to brew a whole pot and then wait for it just to take this guy a fucking cup of coffee, right?
Yeah, because
He's
that's
having
gonna
this
be
internal-
a minute. That's gonna be a minute.
Oh, it's gonna
in
add so
there.
much time.
And then you have to go re-clean the entire fucking brewer.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
So the guy from the table is like, don't you remember me? And then Brian, again, like a whole new internal monologue. He's like, I don't know this fucking guy. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy I usually end up going home with. And Brian looks at him and goes, hey man, I'm in the restaurant industry. I drink a lot. So like, if we ever, I'm really sorry, but I don't really remember you.
To be fair, that is like so good. That's probably the most straightforward I've ever heard.
Yeah. And the guy immediately is like, no, not like that. No, there's anything wrong with that. No, last night in the park.
Yeah.
And then he turns his iPad, because he has a fucking iPad, and he turns his iPad that he's been reading, or he had in front of him, and he shows him that he has the news story about the jogger on the iPad. And Brian is like, who are you and what do you want?
Yeah.
Do you want to take a little break there?
Yeah, let's take a little break real quick, and then when we come back, we're going to keep going with the story of Bored Gay Werewolf.
And we're back.
We're back. So there's a man in a Patagonia vest who knows him.
Yeah, who knows him.
He knows Brian.
And knows he was at the park where the jogger died. Oh, no. Oh, my God. And the guy's like, listen, I come in peace. And he rolls up his sleeve and points to a bite on his arm and then at his nose. You know what I mean? Like where he's like, I know.
Oh.
And the guy's like, and Brian's like, are you like me? And the guy's like, after our little scuffle last night, I wanted to come by and introduce myself. It can be difficult to find your pack, if you will.
Oh. You know what? Honestly, that's triggering for me. After reading Akatar, this feels very much like the males need to rut. It has very okay. I know to our audience. I know a lot of you love a shifter. You love a shifter romance. It's not always for me.
What's a shifter?
So it's like people who transform into stuff. So like werewolves or werebears or were-dinosaurs or were.
You're just saying where in front of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Were means man. That's where werewolf means. It means man-wolf. It's German.
Oh, were-dinosaur. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So,
and then they fuck. In most of these shifter, they're shifter romances. And there's also like a whole one that was like, a lot of them are like direct to Amazon. They don't have like a lot of readers, but it's its own subsect. And
did
some
you
of
see
them
that turkey baster one?
What?
There is this all over TikTok on the book talk. There is this, somebody wrote a horny book about a woman who had sex with turkey basters during Thanksgiving. I don't know. Anyway, we got to move on.
There's a whole book though about people who fuck dinosaurs. There's like a lot of them.
Dinosaurs are really big. I don't know how that would make sense.
Okay. I mean, like they do cover the logistics in the stories. Okay, but back to our shifter romance for Bored Gay Werewolf.
It's not a shift of romance.
He's finding his pack.
I didn't even know what that was until you just said it.
Yeah.
So, he says, pardon me. He says, I'm putting together a group of like-minded individuals and thought you might be interested.
Oh, this feels like crypto.
I would love to grab a coffee sometime and talk about it. Brian goes to give the dude his cup of coffee, and the guy gives him his business card and leaves. And when he leaves, he gets in an Uber Black. And Brian's like, oh, rich.
Okay.
And Tyler reads the card. I'm sorry, Brian reads the card. Tyler Gainsborough, entrepreneur and life coach.
Oh, this is crypto. Oh, that's so gross. Also, this is so funny. So real quick, the other thing about the shifter romance books, right? I'm holding up the novel for those listeners.
Yeah.
They usually don't have a cover like this.
Yeah,
with
no.
a very silly looking werewolf on it and saying "BORED GAY WEREWOLF." And but usually it's just like a man's abs.
Oh, yeah. I know.
They're usually one of those, and it's like not dark
Do they have
fantasy.
a really cool bookmark like mine?
No, they don't have a cool bird-based bookmark.
Bird-based bookmarks. So the next chapter starts. It's a week later. It's Brian's day off. I'm assuming a Monday. And he's in his apartment, and the only thing he can focus on is the business card on the fridge.
Having a day a Monday off.
Remember?
Wednesdays off were the best.
I
I loved a Wednesday off.
I loved a Monday off.
I was a Wednesday
a
off
movie
girly.
theater on a Monday.
Nah, Wednesday off girly for me, because here's the thing: if you have Monday off, other people might have Monday off because of like right now, like you have a 3-day weekend pops up,
Yeah,
and then a lot of the 3-day weekends revolve around Mondays.
that's true.
Give me a Wednesday. It's the middle of the week. Nobody else has off. I had the run of the mall. I had the run of the bank. I had the run of the post office. Any of them. Any place I had to run, I had the
So
run
fine,
of.
we'll give it Wednesday. Brian's day off. It's Wednesday. And he's in his apartment, and like he's like pitter-pattering around the apartment trying to clean and like get random chores done. But the whole time his eyes are just kept focusing on this business card. Like he knows he wants to call the guy, but he also doesn't want to call the guy. You know what I mean? Because he's like, this guy
I don't
want
to seem desperate.
Weird. He also he thinks the guy's weird, and that he's also a werewolf allegedly. So he's like, this is just weird, but he can't stop thinking about it.
Yeah. Has he ever met another werewolf before?
No.
Okay.
So it's like one of those things where like he's building it up, and so then suddenly the idea of doing it seems so heavy that he can't even like lift it. You know what I mean? Like when you make a task feel so big.
Yeah.
So he's avoiding it. He's watching reality TV.
I've recorded TikTok rants that I haven't wanted to post.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know.
So he's watching reality TV. He's doom scrolling on Twitter. They use the word Twitter in the book.
Fuck yeah.
He starts watching Pornhub, but he feels like the card is watching him. So he logs into Grindr so he can leave the house. So he leaves the apartment. There's a whole story about he goes and meets up with this guy, and the guy is like, let's not talk. Let's just get this quickly done before my husband gets home.
Wow.
And the whole thing that happens while they're doing it, this guy has a dog, and this is where we find out that dogs hate him because they can sense he's a dog as well.
Yeah,
especially like a big dog. So while he's fucking this guy, the dog is like a Pomeranian is like literally trying to bite his ankles and bites him, and then he like kicks the Pomeranian, but he's still fucking the guy, and it's a whole thing. Anyway, he leaves the apartment after the guy finishes, and the guy's like, "This is a great job." And then
time out.
Yeah,
Time out.
Yeah.
I wanted to point out, very beginning of this thing, you said, sometimes I'm going to cut over some sections, or I'm not going to go into full detail.
Yeah.
I just want to point out this is one of those sections to our listeners. And I said, I'm like, sometimes she just brushes through action. And she's like, fucked a guy while kicking his Pomeranian. And you're like, what?
Yeah, that's what he did.
So that's why, listen, if you're enjoying this, you really got to read the book.
Read the book.
BORED GAY WEREWOLF.
I'm missing some adjectives for sure about what that happened there.
There's definitely some howling that she's leaving out.
And so they finish up there, and he gets back
definitely.
And he goes back to his apartment, and the first thing he does when he gets back into the apartment is he text messages the Tyler guy, who responds immediately, like the bubbles start to go.
Desperate.
And Tyler says, "Great news, let's meet tomorrow." And as soon as that text message comes through, Brian opens a bottle of whiskey and starts jerking off.
Okay.
Back on the Pornhub. I don't think Brian finished at the meetup.
Okay, well, I didn't need to go over that part of it.
Well, you said I don't give enough details.
Okay.
So they agreed to meet at 3 p.m.
That was speculation, number one. Number two, what I was going to say is it desperate to immediately be immediately? Because like I always have my phone, and so I get mad.
No, I don't think it is. Because the people that are on their phone all the time answer quickly.
Yeah.
I never answer because I never have my phone on me.
Well, can I tell you what makes me mad?
What?
Is when I text somebody, and then who I know is on their phone all the time.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and then they don't respond, which is fine. Whatever, fair. You went like this. You looked at it, and they went, okay, and then you put it down. That's fine. But then there are people who I know are on their phone all the time. And then they text me back 3 weeks later, and then they're like, I have anxiety about that. No.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying.
I text people 3 weeks later because I just don't ever have my phone.
No, but I just get mad because I'm just like, because
I wonder
then 3 weeks later,
how many unread text messages?
3 weeks. Hold on, but real quick, 3 weeks later, they respond to me, and then I'm like a dog. She's like, "Oh, hey, what's going on? Oh, you welcome back. Oh my God, thank you so much for your service." And they're like, "What?" And I'm just like, "No, now I seem desperate."
Yeah. Okay.
That's
how
the
many
part that
unread
I guess.
messages do you think I have right now?
You?
Yeah.
Messages
Text
or emails?
messages.
Text messages. I don't know. What? You have a lot. You have 133. I have 0.
Oh, I have 15 missed calls too.
That's most of those are probably me because you usually don't answer the phone.
I don't know.
And I only try to call you if I need an answer that actually I'm like, this would be too
He's
annoying
like
to wait
at
for
the
a text.
grocery store. So
They're out of the baby formula we usually use. Which one should I get? I have 3 different options before me, and I have limited amount of time. Answer the phone. No, absolutely
I
not.
don't
If
know
I
where my phone
texted
is.
you, I wouldn't hear from you for a day.
Yeah. So they agree to meet at 3 p.m. and they're gonna go to Romanesco. I don't know why Brian thought that was a good idea. He thinks it's like just like an easy spot because because he's gonna go to work after that. I don't remember. But so while they're there, it's interesting because there's a day shift waitress waiting on him, and he doesn't know who she is. Like they have no interaction with the day shift. So she is described as having like half black hair and half blonde hair and a septum ring, and she's kind of rude. And he just like is wondering like which person is this, because like he always gets like complaints, like they don't do the side work right or blah blah. So like he has animosity towards all day shift the same way day shift has all animosity towards night shift.
Yeah.
So in his
Because
mind,
if they realize they're the same person, then they'll revolt
yep.
against management.
No, that's not true. Because
That's what will happen.
Closing side work is way more laborious than opening side work, and so
Okay.
closers. Listen, anyway.
Yeah, but openers have to be awake.
Okay.
One of them gets to stay out till 6 a.m. doing cocaine and drinking.
And that's why you're awake. So logically, I'm still right. So they're talking. They're having this conversation, and like Brian's trying to talk to him, and it's like very difficult because Tyler just wants to fill the silence and awkwardness by talking about Brazilian jiu-jitsu and the belt he's training for. And Brian's like,
why do you need to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? You're a werewolf. Why do you need to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? You're a werewolf.
And Brian's like, listen, let's get right to the point. Who are you? And Tyler responds, that's a tough one. I'm a lot of things.
I
An
want to kill
entrepreneur. Is like a catch-all term. I'm also a philosopher, a searcher, a lifelong learner, a coach, a mentor, a writer, and some would say an influencer.
I want to kill myself with a gun.
And Brian's like, and a werewolf? And Tyler's like, yes, that's part of me, but it doesn't define me.
This is the most infuriating thing you've ever said to me. I hate this man. Look me in the eye.
Yeah.
Does he die later?
I'm not telling you.
I want him to die now.
So Tyler starts talking about his childhood, where he comes from, and how he grew up in the suburbs. His father is an executive at a financial services firm. His mother, a beloved homemaker. He spent the summers in Brittany for French camp, and he's been learning Mandarin since he could walk. But those were private tutors.
Wait, did he join Red Note?
No.
He's learning Mandarin?
He's been learning since he was a child.
Oh.
He graduated top of his university and spent his gap year bumming around ashrams of India. He worked at different financial firms and prestige companies across the city. And as he's talking, Brian just keeps sipping his coffee and thinking he's hearing a lot of words, but none have meaning.
Yeah.
He keeps hearing things like innovator, disruption, like stuff like that. And he's just like, none of this means anything.
This is the paradigm.
Yes. And so Tyler is like, Tyler says to Brian, how did you become one of us? And so we find out the backstory of how Brian became.
Good.
Okay.
All right. Let me set up because you made me mad with Tyler.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. He's designed that way.
Yeah. Brian is like, so he was home for Christmas vacation from college, and he went to do some last minute Christmas shopping. It was dark out. The snow was coming down. The roads were slick. He wasn't maybe paying enough attention, and he kind of barely hit an old lady who was walking in the road, and in a parking lot while he was trying to pull out of a parking lot, like she was crossing the street. And then Tyler looks at him and was like, wait, was the old lady a werewolf? And Brian's like, no. I jumped right out of my car, though, to help her. And I remember looking down at her wrinkled hands with all these rings and panicking and thinking, did I just kill this woman? I need to get help. And so I called 911. And then Tyler interrupts and is like, so was the ambulance driver a werewolf? And Brian's like, no. No. So right before I could hit send on 911, she shot right up onto her feet, and like she looks like she could have been like possessed, right? And she also looks like she was 100 years old. And she starts screaming at me, and I couldn't really understand what she was saying because it was not in English. And she's getting right in my face, super close, and I kind of gently nudged her back. And then when I did that, she got super mad. And next thing I know, she throws up her hands and she's screaming in what sounds like Latin or something. And she spits on the ground and says all kinds of stuff and like waves her hands in the air. And nothing happened until the next month when I was at a college party and I started to feel sick. And I thought it was just the pot brownie. So I left and went back to the dorm. But of course, I never got there, and I woke up naked in a football field covered in blood with a squirrel tail hanging out of my mouth, and the rest is kind of history.
So it's so it was a ancient Romani curse that was cast on him for hitting an old lady with his car.
Yeah.
While driving in probably flurries.
Yeah.
And
Tyler's staring
Also, hold on, time out.
Yeah.
I also love that he told it like a coming out story.
Yeah.
Like it definitely took too long. He didn't just get to the bones of it. You know what I mean? It was like, and then I told my mom. But no, hold on. But you didn't understand. My stepdad was there, and he's super into the Packers.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck, dude? What are we talking about here? And but like, okay. But also waking up naked in a football field with the squirrel. It's just so perfect. I love this book.
And Tyler's staring at him blankly and is like, who's the werewolf? And Brian's like, there is no werewolf. I've never been bitten. It was a blood curse. And Tyler's like really taken aback. Like he has no idea.
Yeah, because it's a different type of werewolf.
Yeah. And so Brian's like, well, how did you become a werewolf? And Tyler tells this really detailed story how he was with a scout troop in the woods, and there was an attack and this crazy battle, and he tried to save his friend's life, but he got bit by this creature, and then he survived. And if you look it up, there's articles about it. All the news media said it was a bear attack, and I could send you the article. And Brian's like, that won't be necessary.
Yeah, well, you're a
I
werewolf.
don't really
I
care.
believe that you're a werewolf.
Yeah, so I don't really care. And Brian's like, that's not necessary. So, like, what is it you're trying to do? Like, are you putting together a support group for werewolves? And Tyler is like, yes, this is my passion project.
Oh, God.
I've been a wolf in the game for a while, and I've learned so much through the process. We werewolves have an inner animus, an aggression that drives us. We need to be the alpha and take what's ours in both personal and professional lives. And Brian's like, okay. And Tyler continues, the success of a wolf in the wild depends on harnessing the power to dominate, gain status, and win respect of others. Now, what does that sound like to you? And Brian says, a men's rights blog.
Yes! Oh, my God! Oh, Jesus Christ. He's having coffee with Joe Rogan.
And Tyler says, and then it hit me. I needed to explore these synergies, integrating lupine insights with my professional life, then lending my mentorship and business acumen to the mystical, how to harness the beast within through strength and training, the importance of communing with nature, repeating regular affirmations to control your emotions, and managing your monthly transitions. I want to formalize this into an offering, and I'm going to break the market wide open.
I want to die. I don't know how he doesn't just turn into a werewolf and kill him on the spot.
And Brian's like, there's a werewolf market? And Tyler's
this
like,
feels, honestly, this is Mark Zuckerberg on the Rogan saying that we need more masculine energy. This entire thing. Oh my fucking God. Oh my goddamn God. Oh.
And Tyler's like, yeah, the wolf market. How much longer do you think you can keep ourselves secret? All wolves need a pack. A lone wolf is the only wolf that's searching for community.
Oh.
We succeed in groups and struggle alone.
Oh my God.
like,
He's even like, oh, we have to be alphas. We need a pack. We need a pack leader. Who's line leader?
So Brian is like, through all this, Brian is like, Brian does feel alone. Like he hasn't unpacked his apartment. He's isolated from his parents.
Yes.
He can't trust anybody with this secret about himself.
Yeah, but that's due to capitalism, not you being a werewolf.
So he is feeling very low, and he feels what Tyler is saying is true, but like maybe that he's not saying it right, whatever. And so Brian is like, what are you proposing? And Tyler says, join me. Let's build something. You would get in on the ground floor. I'm already identifying possibilities for recruitment and scale.
Okay. For werewolves?
So
Is he going to make more werewolves?
so Tyler says,
Also, what are they going to pay you in? Fucking possum pelts? Like, what are we talking about here? These are werewolves.
so then Brian's like, okay, well, if that's the case, then like, and he's doing like the gesture where you point between two people, like
Yeah.
this. And he's like, well, what's that between us? And Tyler says, well, for now, you can think of me like your sponsor, like an AA. We'll check in from time to time, and you can let me know how things are going, and I can find ways to support you. It will be a good way for me to refine the framework, develop some training modules for you, and to get some experience in the fast-paced startup environment. Think of it like an internship.
I'd fight him on the spot. I'm just telling you right now. Like I don't think I've ever been. How many books have we read on this podcast? Like 15?
Yeah, a lot.
I don't think I've ever been angrier at a character than this. Like I want to like legit. This character was designed to trigger me.
Yeah.
And let's honest. Look at me. I'm triggered. I'm like the second he was like, I do BJJ. Do you do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? And immediately I'm like, you're a fucking werewolf.
Brian does not trust Tyler.
Yeah.
At all. He thinks Tyler may be able to help him, though, to get out of his funk and gain greater control over this werewolf condition that he doesn't understand.
Okay. The one thing I will give him is that this is the first werewolf he's ever met.
Yeah.
Which is also how men get stuck in the manosphere bullshit trap. Because often the thing they fall into when they're young, especially now they're younger, it's usually the first like guy that seems, quote, masculine that they've ever met.
Yeah.
And that's how like a fucking Andrew Tate can end up taking over.
Yeah.
Or any of these other MMA guys. Oh my God. I want to. You ever see the video of Mark Zuckerberg at the UFC fight when they're passing the gear? There is this video. Oh my God. Because Mark Zuckerberg got into like MMA, like I want to say in like 2020 or something like that.
Yeah, he brought the broccoli haircut.
Yeah. So there's a video of him before he has that haircut where he is like part of one of the fight camp teams where there's a guy who has like a big fight and Mark Zuckerberg is there. And like the team is like passing gear. So like the gloves or all this different stuff. And Mark desperately wants to be a part of the team.
Yeah.
And it's such a fucking clip. You can see him like looking and like he's like reaching because he's like, oh yeah, and then I'll pass it. And they're just passing right. And he's like, oh, okay. And he like puts his hand back. And like the energy of him putting his hand back in his pockets, like I don't believe in the alpha, beta, gamma, sigma, any of that different stuff. But it's the most beta energy you've ever seen in my life.
So while he's sitting at this table in this moment, he sees Nick, the bartender, walking in for her shift. And she makes eye contact with him. And Brian, at this point, as soon as he sees Nick, he's like, I got to get away from this table. Also, Tyler's weird.
Yeah.
And he like kind of does that like weird panic where he's just like, I just got to get out of here. So he's like, fine, sure. I'll try it out. Like, fine, Tyler.
Yeah.
And Tyler's like, great.
That's how you end up in a timeshare.
And he's like, I'm going to give you some homework to look over and exercise workout plans and daily mantras. And Brian's like, are you serious? And he's like, yes. And then Tyler leaves. So Brian gets up to go to talk to Nick, who is like, oh, so you're seeing that guy 2 times in a row. Must be getting serious, like making fun of him. And then he sees that Darby has come into work early because that mustache guy from the bar the other week ago is there, and they're flirting with each other. And we find out that guy owns a flower shop down the street. Now, Brian immediately does not like this guy. He thinks his vibes are bad. Yeah. So he's kind of like always a little weary of him from day one. So scene cut.
Real quick.
Yeah.
The guy that you're describing, the flower shop owner.
Yeah.
So back when I used to host burlesque shows, I know I've lived a life. But back when I used to host burlesque shows, there would always be guys like that who were regulars at the shows, which was fine. But I was always just like, man, you just make it your whole thing. That's the feeling I'm getting from this person.
That is, I know the guy, and yes, that's the guy.
It was, especially with the handlebar mustache. Which is fine. You can
White
have them.
button-down shirt with suspenders. You know the one.
Yes.
You know the one.
Yes. Oh my God.
So
I'm still mad about Tyler.
It's the end of the shift.
Okay.
They've worked the whole dinner shift. Brian and Darby are outside having their after dinner shift cigarettes. and Darby is talking about a table who complained and sent back the food that they had ordered. They had ordered fettuccine Alfredo, and their complaint when they sent it back to the kitchen, this lady said that it tasted the same over and over again. She's like, I can't eat it. It tastes the same over and over again. So Darby is screaming into the wind that this is the stupidest fucking complaint he's ever heard. That they've ever heard.
How is it supposed to taste different again?
So then,
every bite's supposed to be a...
So then they start this conversation, and Darby is like, what food doesn't taste the same over and over again? And they start listing, like, well, like maybe the turkey club, and Brian's like the meatloaf, and Darby's like, you're clearly not listening. Like, the meatloaf definitely tastes the same. And then Brian's like, well, maybe the salmon. And Darby's like, no, the salmon.
Salmon tastes like salmon the whole way
well,
through.
He's like, well, Darby says, like, the salmon, the sauce that's on it gets on everything else on the plate, and that's going to all taste the same. So they're having this discussion while they're smoking about what on the menu wouldn't taste the same.
But it's also
time.
fettuccine Alfredo.
I know. It's infuriating. And I immediately, like, if I was a dog, the spine of my hairs went up, because I was like, I've had this conversation with a customer where I couldn't. And so they finally agree that maybe the Cobb salad would be the one, because each bite you could get something different.
That's true.
Right. So they're like, they come to that on their menu. If you wanted something that tasted a little different every single bite, you should get the Cobb salad. Right.
Yeah.
And
that's true. They nailed it. They nailed it.
And
this is definitely this Tony, the writer, the author,
worked at every restaurant.
And definitely had that conversation while having a cigarette after work.
Absolutely.
Tony, you're a great author. Just so you know, I love you. You've written 90% of my life.
So they're having a discussion now. Nick, who's been doing the money and closing shop inside, she comes out, she locks the door, and they present her with the quandary. And Darby, like, says the whole thing. And we know what food doesn't taste the same in every bite. And so she's standing there and she's thinking about it. And she goes, I don't know, I guess the Cobb salad. And then they all laugh, and she just doesn't know why they're laughing, but they all laugh. And then they're like, we're going to go to the bar together. They go to the bar. Every restaurant staff has a bar.
Yeah, that they all go to afterwards.
So they go to their bar, and they have a karaoke set up at the bar.
Uh-oh.
And Darby,
that's never good.
Darby, they run right over to the karaoke, and they just, like, it's like immediately they're like, get me a drink, and they go to the microphone. Right? Yeah. And we find out that Darby is actually a performer, and that they're actually doing a show soon, a one-person show that they're gonna, like, do all kinds of stuff at, and they're very excited. And Darby's great. They're hitting, like, Mariah Carey level notes, right? And everybody's very impressed. And Nick is sitting at the bar with her drink, and she's doing flashcards, because she's still doing her nursing school flashcards. And Nick and Brian are having a serious conversation, and Brian is deeply uncomfortable with it, but Nick likes to, like, dig into a serious conversation.
Yeah.
And it's clear that Nick is trying to meet him where he is. Like, she's poking and prodding in the conversation, but, like, he is really not. And she literally says, you have, like, this whole lone wolf vibe. Like, you purposely are trying not to connect with people. And, like, I feel like you want to connect with us better, but, like, you don't know how. And she's, like, really calling him out on his shit. And she basically is just like, listen, we know you have a hard time. We're here for you, right? Like, we're here for you. If you need to talk, we're here for you. And she says, we've seen the bags under your eyes, the torn clothes. You smell like booze all the time. Like, if you need help, we can help. And if you want us to just listen, we can listen, right?
Yeah.
And Brian's about to kind of respond to this, but all of a sudden Darby appears, and they're like, shots. Perfect. Yeah. Always. And we find out that through this, like, they're having a couple shots with each other, that Darby is a bit of a Renaissance person. They've gone through a lot of phases. They've tried a lot of things. They've done stand-up comedy, aerial silks, learned magic. They did knife throwing, blah, blah, blah. And, like, when they describe what they want to be when they grow up, they're like, I want to be a traveling bard.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's what Darby's. I was like, I deeply relate to that.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. Okay, yeah.
This is also why we need social safety nets, so people can try things like this.
Yeah.
And, like, I've known so many people like this.
Yeah.
Dozens of people like this, which is incredible. This is, oh my God. I feel like they were just like, yeah, we just added a werewolf to your life. The book.
So in the next chapter,
Oh, real fast, going
yeah.
back to what you were saying about Brian being a lone wolf, but also like I've also been in that situation at my job where everyone else, when you have this type of job, where everyone else is like, yeah, this job is a stepping stone. You're like, but it's good enough for me,
yeah,
possibly forever. Like I had that.
Yeah.
Honestly, I had that when I was still working the cubicle job.
yeah.
And I had so many people who were like, "Oh, this shouldn't be all you want." I was like, "No, I'm fine." Like
Oh, they would get so mad at you.
they got so mad at me
because you're not the upper management team. Was
Yeah.
like, when are you gonna move up? And you were like, why?
Yeah, they're like, "Why don't you want to be
The
a manager?"
bills are paid. I don't want any more stress.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm nailing everything, and I have like a slight
Yeah.
savings. And they were like, "Well, you got it. You forgot to make more, and you could need to make more, and you need to do this, and blah blah, and you should
Yeah.
be doing this." I'm like, I don't want to go back to school. I don't
Yeah.
want to do any of this different stuff.
No.
And that's kind of like Brian has a different thing because it's also clearly alcoholism, and he's a werewolf. But for me, that was one of the things that was always super frustrating because I was like, and there should be. We should have jobs in our society where people can just be a bartender. Some people just want to be a bartender till they retire.
Yeah, they're called. A lot of them are called sommeliers.
Yeah, let them. And they don't have to go be a fucking manager.
Yeah.
The end goal, some people just do want to work at McDonald's.
Listen, the thing you're not remembering is that you need to increase profit at all times.
I'm tired of always being part of a growth mindset. I don't want a fucking growth mindset. I don't want to grow. Some of us don't want to grow.
Well,
Some of
I'm
us
really
just want to be
sorry.
petrified wood.
In the next chapter, Brian is taking a before picture on his cell phone, and he's not having a great time. He feels like he's kind of out of shape, a little chubby, maybe, but it's for an eventual blog. He feels weird sending a picture of himself with almost no clothes on to someone he's not going to have sex with. And
I feel weird about saying it to somebody I want to have sex with.
yeah, but Tyler wants him to start doing this workout regimen, and they're going to use the before pictures on the blog of the before and after.
Yeah. I hate that he's being pipelined into an MLM.
And
I
so-
hate this so badly.
So, Tyler believes that this new fitness routine is going to help quell Brian's murderous tendencies.
Okay.
Okay, so he sent him a bunch of. He also wants him to like start doing more nonfiction reading. Not that Brian's reading, but he sends him a bunch of hyperlinks to like TED Talks and different books about things. I'm sure that what's his name, the guy that was addicted to benzos.
Oh,
The
Jordan
cleaner guy.
Peterson.
Like, I feel like the Jordan Peterson book would have got
No,
sent
this
to
is
him.
definitely some Tony Robbins, some Jordan Peterson's gonna
Yeah.
be mixed in there, some other ones, and some of them are gonna have like decent advice, and then that is a gateway,
Yeah,
a little sprinkle
little sprinkle.
to get some others in there.
Tyler figures at least he can get rid of his beer gut. So like he's just kind of like he doesn't believe in what Tyler's saying, but he's like, well, I mean, working out isn't going to hurt me. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And even if Tyler's wrong, he gets to go for a run in the morning, whatever. So he starts doing the running in the mornings, and he can feel how strong his muscles are. And he thinks that a lot of people in the park where he goes running kind of must think it's weird because he's kind of like this out of shape hipster in like jean shorts, cutoffs, you know, and like a dirty t-shirt. But he's like speeding, right? Like
Yeah.
his muscles on his leg are like what's it called? Engorged, like, wow, dude's going fast. And he tries to stop at a certain point, and when he stops running, he actually breaks the sidewalk. That's how strong his legs are. And we find out that like the jogging thing is actually easier for him to handle than doing the mantras. He fucking hates the mantras.
Yeah.
Every morning he has to do these post-it notes. And one of them says, I am strong. I am in control of myself. Or one says, I am grateful for my body and its strength. One says, I am a warrior, not a worrier. And one says, I am not a drop in the ocean. I am an ocean in a drop. And he does not know what that one means.
No, I'm an ocean in a drop. Oh, fuck you. Okay, I got it. With that though, with those
Yeah.
mantras, I want you guys to think of the following mantra while we take a little break.
Okay.
And that mantra is that you're going to get yourself your local library card. Join your local library today. Go find out all of the different things that your local library can offer you, whether or not to be at the county or the city or the local level. Go find out more about your community. Go there, get a card. It should be free, and get that little taste of book communism. And we're back.
We're here. Okay, so Brian is riding his bike. He's
Okay.
going back to Romanesco to meet with Tyler again. That's where they meet now. And he's been feeling pretty good about his progress so far. He's able to do a basic hit class he found on YouTube.
Okay.
He still doesn't love the mantras. They go over, him and Tyler go over what he did last week. And Tyler is super hyped. He's like, the leadership and strong community-based network, we as werewolves can access, the special support. We need to learn how to control this power, just like you are. And he's just like going over this whole thing about like controlling your power and this strong community and blah, blah, blah. And Brian is like, this is an actual quote. Brian says, quote, "This isn't going to turn into a werewolf 4chan, is it?"
That's a good quote.
And Tyler laughs and says, "No, you got to think bigger. What we're building here is a community of people like us to occupy positions from top to bottom of society who we can help to master their instincts and use their transformational power in all aspects of their lives.
Oh, God.
This will be their first 360-degree lifestyle brand for werewolves, bringing in tech, social networking, and wellness to the mystical. After the books, podcasts, conferences, merchandise, advertising, dietary advice, workout routines, the possibilities are limitless." And Brian's like, "I thought we were just like doing a support group like AA."
I just want to say that he just described werewolf groypers. This is werewolf groypers. Oh my God. Oh my God. Also, yes, that's 100% what happens when certain people get into recovery programs as they decide to like, it's you know what it is? It's the commodification of a hobby.
Yep.
It's a thing that you're supposed to be doing to make yourself better or to make yourself feel better. And instead someone says, "Oh, you can make some money with this." And before you know it, it's no longer fun.
Yeah, I just used to read books.
You did. Maybe that's the pull quote at the front. Maybe that's the 30-second intro.
So Tyler is like, "Exactly. No, you're right. That's my mission statement. To help people like you and me. This isn't some corporate venture, but at the same time, we need to stay agile and stay open to opportunities as we build our movement." And Brian is like, "Does this movement have a name?" And Tyler says, "Yes. I'm calling it The Pack."
Oh, God.
And Tyler says, "People need a pack, and we will give it to them. A pack of individuals with skills, networks, and influence to ensure that they just don't survive, they thrive." You're growling like a werewolf.
Can I tell you,
Yeah.
I can feel on my hands the folder. You know what I mean? Because it's not just a brochure. It's a weird little folder.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, we got a roof done, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
To the listeners, to the long-term listeners who made it this deep, just so you know, one of the things we mentioned when we started the Patreon was like, eventually we're going to buy a roof. So when we got the roof done,
Yeah.
the contractors show up and all of them had these like big folders
Yeah.
that are then filled with all the copy and
Yeah.
all of this different things to sell. Like, oh, this is what the shingle will look like, and this is our 15-point promise,
my gosh.
pledge, and this is our.
And I was like, "Can you make it stop leaking?"
Yeah.
Please.
We just want to trust.
Which is why we had to record the podcast late, because there was people hammering above
yes,
the
literally
us.
above the studio.
And
Have
we
been
were like,
people
"We
all
can't-
week.
Can't
Yeah.
work." Wait, so listen. Tyler asked Brian, "How do you prepare for your transitions each month?" Because we're coming up on a full moon.
Yeah.
And Brian responds by saying, "I usually just get drunk."
Yeah.
And a very judgmental face from Tyler. And Brian's like, "Listen, it's gross. The nails growing, the fur coming out, my bones breaking. I can feel my teeth grow. I'd rather be drunk."
Yeah.
And Tyler is like, "How do you restrain yourself?" And Brian's like, "I don't. I just go to the park. And then I let the transition happen. I usually wake up surrounded by a bunch of dead raccoons I ate, or maybe a jogger once in a while. But like that was like one time."
Oh, really? So he knows it was a jogger?
Well, no, because remember, that's what the news
Oh,
article said,
yeah,
a
okay,
jogger.
yeah.
And Tyler is like, "What do you do that's..." Brian's like, "What do you do so much better, Tyler?" And Tyler explains that he had a contractor build a tasteful dungeon in his basement with reinforced concrete and steel chains and the whole 9 yards. And Brian says, well, I can't afford that on a waiter's salary. And Tyler's like, yeah, a waiter is such a weird job for a werewolf. Like, why did you choose that? Now, Brian is enraged. He's like, who would choose this? And he said, Tyler, do you think I have a choice? I'm a 20-something-year-old college dropout. And Tyler's like, no, I get that. It's just like, how do you manage your temper? Each customer is a landmine. And what do you do about the marking? And Brian's like, what is marking? And so basically we find out that when a werewolf is in human form, when they get really angry, they unconsciously register deep in their wolf bones, if you will, their hatred, and they mark that person. And when they become a wolf, they will do anything and everything to seek that person out and kill them.
Oh, so it's like a targeting system that forever. Oh,
yeah.
So, okay. So there's a video game called Team Fortress 2.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a game that I've played for a very, very long time. If one guy kills you too often, right? Like he kills you 7 times, you never kill him. It actually marks him on the screen. Just so you know,
this dude hates
this
you.
dude. No, this dude's been fucking smoking you. And you're like, what? And so like, it becomes this antagonist thing where you're like, you don't care that anybody else kills you. Yeah. But that dude, if that dude kills me again, I'm going to be so mad at that one dude. And it's designed to make you keep playing is what it really is down to. But that is so funny that the werewolves actually have a rage targeting system, which would play into the fact that it was a regular customer.
Yeah.
We didn't hear anything about the relationship with that guy, but...
So marking is instantaneous and irreversible. One insult, one slight, and then the full moon, you stop at nothing to kill them. And Tyler's like, you must be aware of the anger and aggression that drives us, how it builds up the closer and closer we get to transition. And in this moment, Brian is like, oh, like he's having all these realizations, and he's like, yeah, like as I get closer to the fuller moon, I get more anxious and frustrated. I become like, he gets angry at everybody. Everything's louder and brighter. He's more irritable. His drinking escalates before the full moon. And I'm like, so menstrual cycle yet again. Yet again. Shout out. I'm also marking. No,
yeah. Oh, yeah. No, listen. Jesus Christ.
I got enemies. I got ops.
Yeah.
So Brian starts to take inventory in his mind. And he's like he's thinking about his whole past life, if you will, like of since he became a werewolf. And he's like, who are the people that like, did I kill people that like I marked? And so he starts to think about like this girl at his dorm who microwaved fish and pissed him off, and then she mysteriously disappeared. And like, there's like all these people that start coming back of like, whatever happened to that person? I know they made me really angry. Tyler is oblivious to this thought anyway, and he suggests that they meet at Tyler's house next week as the full moon is approaching so they can prepare together, and Brian can kind of see how Tyler does it and prepare properly. So the full moon is on Thursday. He's like, well, I'll see you there Thursday.
I'm already picturing the first thing he said, tasteful dungeon.
Yeah.
I'm so with it. But I'm picturing it in a McMansion. Like I'm picturing his house. Before you tell me anything, I just want to let you know. I'm picturing it in a development done by Toll Brothers. It's a Toll Brothers development, those scumbags. And I'm picturing McMansion. I'm picturing a basement that actually is a walkout basement with a bar in it. But then there's just like this weird room to the side that is the dungeon. That's just what I'm picturing, cave style. Go ahead.
So Brian works his night shift, and the whole time he can't stop thinking about this marking thing. And at the end of his shift, he gets his phone back. They have a no phone policy. Nick always takes the phones, which honestly, necessary evil.
Yeah.
And as soon as he gets his phone back after the shift,
I would have ripped her throat out.
Okay.
Take my phone away from me.
Oh, I can't wait to take your phone away from you. So he grabs the phone as soon as he gets it back, and he starts searching up the jogger, right? The article about the jogger. And Darby is looking over his shoulder and is like, oh, I recognize that guy now. Jonathan Ansley. Remember, he's the worst. He's super entitled. He's always snapping. And Nick from behind the bar is like, oh, the snapper guy. I fucking hated that guy. And then all of a sudden the memories come back to Brian in an instant. His stomach sinks. He remembers everything about him, his eyebrows, his hair, how he always smelled like cigar smoke. And Darby says, like, I'm wondering where that asshole has been. And we find out this backstory that the last time the guy was in the restaurant, they were super busy 2 months ago, and the customer got really mad at Darby, and they started screaming at them and getting all up in their face. And Brian got in between the customer and Darby, and then the customer called them both the F slur.
Oh.
Yeah. And so Brian gets up and goes behind the bar, and they have like the little box of all the receipts that go back, and he ticks through all the things, and he finds the flattened receipt from that date, and he sees his name on it and the customer's name, and it says total $100, tip 0, with a handwritten note, worst service ever.
Yo. This book rules. I love this book so much.
So we're now heading to Brian's house. We're in the next chapter, and he's riding his bike to Brian's house.
To Tyler's house.
Tyler's house. Sorry,
Yeah.
You're right. He's riding to Tyler's house, and Tyler lives in the city, so you are wrong about that. Because we're in the city. He lives in the fanciest neighborhood, though.
Okay.
Rich. Brownstone.
Yeah.
Brownstone.
Gotcha.
Tyler says that he wants to go through the process of preparing for the full moon with him. But before that, he wants to do a little housekeeping. And he asks Brian, what's your bandwidth like for this week? And Brian responds with, robust, I think. I paid my Wi-Fi bill this month. And I said, when I read that line, I closed the book and I said, fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Until I worked in certain corporate areas, I had no idea when somebody asked me what my bandwidth was. I was like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
I had to learn all that fucking verbiage once I got in the restaurant industry.
What's your capacity?
Yeah. And I don't know what that means.
You also didn't know what PTO was because you worked in restaurants for so long
No.
that you just had to work.
There's no taking off. Okay. So Tyler says, so he says, great, because I paid my Wi-Fi bill. Or Brian says, great, I paid my Wi-Fi bill. And Tyler's like, great. I had a couple of administrative items I was hoping you could take care of for the pack. Some foundational things to establish our web presence. Let's start with a shared inbox, social media accounts, maybe a couple cryptic posts to drive engagement. You're on Twitter, right? Brian responds, yes, unfortunately. Great. I'm thinking the tone of our brand is like North Face meets Tesla. Rugged individualism and adventure seeking, yet innovative and exclusive. Irreverent, but we support the troops. You know what I mean?
You're just laughing at my face.
I can't believe I got it all out.
I
had to type all that out from them. I was like, this is the worst thing. I don't know. I'm going to say it. And I did.
The worst part is, like, you usually don't read this many quotes, but you hate this man so much that you just were like, here's another thing you said.
I
Stupid.
need you to deeply understand, Tyler.
Tyler's the fucking worst.
And Brian goes, okay.
It should be evergreen, but of the moment. What? That was an actual thing that was said to me at one point when I was like debating because of like doing the transfer to YouTube and being like, what type of content works better over here? They're like, it should be evergreen, but also of the moment. And I was like, oh, okay. I can splat. Okay, never mind.
No, shut up. So Brian is like, how about I'll start by just setting up us up an email address? Because at this point, Brian doesn't know what he's saying. He's like, I guess I'll make a Gmail. Like, he's like, I do not know what you just said. And Tyler's like, yeah, sure. I'll do some noodling on this, build out our brand story, and then we can circle back.
He just said nothing.
So
I gotta say, but also like everything he said like sounds easy in their mind. Like, oh, you just click $3. Like everything he designed takes weeks.
Oh my God, it's so painful.
Like when I had to create our email, that our official Pearlmania.net, Pearlmania500.net email.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, then you buy this, then you do this. And it was like, no. And then you have to tie it. And then you have to click these other boxes.
Yeah.
And then it's not going to work. And then you have to do that. I was like.
And then you're going to cry. There's the crying.
And then I demanded a refund because I didn't think I needed the thing I paid for. And then I discovered I needed the thing.
You need to call them back.
I didn't have to call back. I just redid it after screaming at them to get a refund.
Yeah. 2
days of my life gone.
Sorry about that.
But now we have Pearlmania500.net where you can join if you want to become a Patreon member.
So nice plug.
Thank you.
And Brian is
Take that,
they're
Tyler.
gonna go work out. They have to go work out together. And so Brian's like, Tyler's like, go get changed in the guest bathroom. And so Brian goes into it. It's a luxurious bathroom. It's got like fancy hand soap, and it's not relevant to the story really at all.
Yeah.
But while Brian's getting changed into his workout clothes, He has a bottle of kombucha he was drinking, and he dumps it down the sink and then fills up the bottle of kombucha with all the hand soap because it's like expensive hand soap. And he puts it in his gym bag and steals it.
All right.
And I was like, honestly, incredible.
That's stealing soap is wild.
Well, it's called Aesop. It's a very expensive hand soap.
Okay.
So it's described as...
No, I understand.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, in general,
funny.
it's never been a thought to... I've never once... I'd steal the bottle.
Yeah.
But not to steal...
He doesn't want to get caught stealing the bottle.
I know.
It's
I'm just
so
saying,
funny.
to transfer it out is such dirtbag behavior.
I love it.
That is such... What a dirt. Okay.
I love it. So they go down to the basement where there is he can see the dungeon door, but to the left of it is this huge built-in gym.
Mm-hmm. And
immediately Brian's intimidated. He sees all these really heavy weights, and he's like, I'm not really strong. I've only been jogging and doing like YouTube workouts. Tyler picks up a kettlebell and throws it at him, and Brian catches it. And it was like 60 pounds. And he realizes he's like really incredibly strong naturally. He just never realized it.
Because he never tried.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so they work out for like 2 hours.
Was he a gifted student?
And we come to realize that this is just a CrossFit workout. And Brian's never done CrossFit, but it's very clear that he's just doing CrossFit. And Tyler yells a lot of like abusive encouragement, just like CrossFit.
Yeah.
After they're done, they go upstairs and have protein shakes. Mm-hmm. And then they go out into Tyler's backyard where he has like a beautiful garden, like inner city garden. And he's like, we're going to do an hour of meditation.
Ugh.
And Brian's like, I don't know how to meditate. I've never done that before. And so he explains to him how to do it. Keep your mind empty. Thought comes in. Let it leave. After the hour of meditation, which Brian struggle buses through, but he does feel better at the end. He goes to the bathroom.
I hate meditation. I am not a fan.
Yeah.
I don't ever. We did it once, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I'll never let it go. It was the longest. It's just, do you feel better? I was like, no.
Yeah.
I just sat there with my thoughts. You're like, you're supposed to keep your mind empty. How? The only thing what runs through my mind?
What?
Spirals. Just the deepest spiral staircase.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we're doing this.
Yeah, we have to do this instead so you don't think your thoughts. So that ends. Brian does enjoy the meditation. Even though it's difficult, he does feel better. He feels better after the workout, after the meditation. He feels clear. He goes back to the bathroom to get changed. He steals toilet paper.
Okay. All right. I'm obsessed.
They exchange pleasantries, and Tyler asks Brian what he's going to do tonight, like when it comes to the transition. He's like, I'm just going to go out to the park like I always do. What about yourself? And Tyler says, quote, I'm going to go down into the dungeon. I think I'm going to do a face mask, and I'm midway through listening to the Fountainhead, so I should be finished by dawn.
Fountainhead is Ayn Rand, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna run through a brick wall. This book is so triggering. I love it. There's no other word for it.
Yeah.
It's literally walking up and just like bang, 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 bang. That's all it's doing.
When you make this graphic design, which you're passionate about, can you just do like triggered lib?
No, I want to do the werewolf ripping his shirt open, but I am the werewolf.
You are the werewolf. Got it.
I have to figure out how to morph myself into a werewolf. I'm gonna do it.
Oh, we need to find. Never mind. I'm not gonna say.
Okay.
So he heads over to the park. He leaves his house. He goes to the park.
Yeah.
He goes and sits by the water. There's water nearby. He tries to keep himself in like this calm meditative state.
But how was Tyler in the park to know that he was a werewolf back then if Tyler spends his werewolf transition times in his basement?
We'll get there.
All right.
Okay. So this is the first time while he's sitting there watching the water, calmly sitting, he's very conscious of what's happening. It feels like a lucid dream, like as he's going through the transition. After it happens, he's running through the park, kind of like a happy dog. Like he's chasing rabbits and foxes. He's running through the stream. He's just having a good time. If he goes too close to the edge of the park and he sees headlights, he turns around. Eventually, he finds a small spot in a more wooded area of the park, and he goes to sleep. And he wakes up in the morning. Nothing is broken. He hasn't eaten anything. He didn't kill anybody. And this is the moment he's completely a convert into what Tyler's suggesting.
Yeah.
Right? He's like, I'm in.
Yeah.
This works.
Which was don't get blackout drunk.
Mm-hmm.
That was what really happened was he didn't get blackout drunk.
Yeah.
He worked out.
Yeah.
And he had to think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So next chapter.
Don't need an MLM for that. I'm just going to throw that out there. You don't need an MLM for that.
We're back at the restaurant, and Brian is helping Nick with her flashcards. She's at the bar, and they're, studying between, like, the slow period of work. Asking questions. He's doing questions about the medical stuff. And it's about 3 months later. We're at this chapter. It's 3 months later.
Okay.
And Brian is completely a Tyler convert. Okay. He's doubled down into the training program. He's gotten more handle on his werewolf abilities. He's been having the weekly meetings with Tyler. The agenda is different every time. Sometimes personal training, life coaching, lifting weights. Sometimes they try to hone Brian's skills. Like, they'll go to the rooftop and Tyler will say, like, address 1502 V Street, 3rd floor. What are they discussing? And then Brian has to use his supersonic hearing to hear it, or, like, look at the buses driving by and see what's on the headlines of the newspapers people are reading, right? And so everyone in the friends, Darby and Nick, are now 3 months acquainted with this new Brian, this like new lifestyle Brian.
Time out.
Yeah.
In any other book, the Tyler character would be like a wizened old man. Do you know what I mean? And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, he's been through this. But like the fact that it's Tyler, and I'm realizing slowly that like the wizened old man, they don't exist anymore. They are Tylers.
Yeah.
They're all Tylers. And it makes me so mad. Okay, keep going.
And so as they're doing the flashcards, Brian is hyping up Nick. He's like, you're definitely going to pass this test. You just got to keep a positive attitude, blah, blah, blah. And they look over at Nick looks at the bar at Darby and looks back at Brian and is like, who are you? Right? Like, who are you? And then Darby's over at the bar with that guy that they were flirting with. His name's Abe.
Okay.
They've been dating this whole time now.
Okay.
And Brian still doesn't trust Abe.
Okay.
He doesn't like him. Bad vibes. Since Brian's been doing this stuff with Tyler, he hasn't been going to the bar after work as much. He hasn't been really engaging with the friends. And so, like, he didn't even realize that, like, Abe and Darby were, like, getting serious. He's been really determined not to drink as much, especially on nights where he knows he's going to transition. If he does decide to go to the bar, it's for, like, 1 or 2 drinks. And then he finds out, I guess the last time he went to the bar, Abe was sitting on his stool.
Okay.
And he has, like, this realization that, like, it's not his stool. Like, he had this whole, like, idea in his head that, like, if you stop going to the bar as a regular, like, they frame your stool, they, like, hang it on the wall. Like, this is where the best drinking was ever done. You know what I mean? Like, immortalize you.
I know the feeling about that. Yeah.
Instead, it's just, like, now the new boyfriend has stolen his seat.
Yeah, that's his normal seat. Yeah. I get that. And I do also get that in my 20s of having that belief. Yeah. Like, there is that weird belief where, like, I'm doing important things here.
Yeah.
And in reality, you're
I
like,
will be remembered.
Yeah, and in reality, what you're doing is, like, I'm passing time and I'm getting blackout drunk.
Yeah, I'm spending all of my money.
I'm spending all of my money here, which is why $150 a day is not enough money.
No, we gotta make more.
Yeah.
So he starts talking to Nick about how much he doesn't like Abe and how he doesn't trust him. And Nick brushes him off. He's like, or she's like, just sitting there writing down on her note cards. And she's like, he doesn't do anything. Abe doesn't do anything. He writes in his notebook. He drinks his wine. Darby seems happy. I don't know what the problem is. And Brian's like, yeah, well, I looked in his notebook that he's always writing in. And Nick was like, why would you do that? That's rude. And he's like, I was walking by and it was there. He was gone to the restroom and I saw that the notebook was open.
Oh, what is
and
that?
I looked at it and on the bottom right hand on the paper, it said, hi, Brian. So he knew I was looking. And Nick's like, well, that's what you get for being a sneaky little bitch.
Exactly.
Brian, so the night shift goes over, and that night they're going to the bar again. And Brian is trying to convince Darby to use this app that he uses. It's like a planning app, and Darby is like, I don't know, like, it's pretty complicated. And Brian's like, no, it's not complicated. It's about the 4 quadrants of your life. And you can make the 4 quadrants whatever you want, like work, art, friends, family. And then you have to prioritize them in a thing of like 1 to 10. And he's like going on and on about it. And Darby's like, no.
It's a decision matrix, you moron.
Yeah.
Like, that's so okay.
And Darby,
Brian, you used to be cool.
And Darby.
Brian, you used to be cool.
And Darby is like, in the very like politest way, he's like, I'm really glad this is working for you. You know, you're definitely more present. But like, that's just not my process. But I did want to confirm with you that you are coming to my show because I want to put you on the guest list for tickets for the theater. But like, I'm not going to be doing this with the app.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
like,
I get that. Yeah.
like, very friendly. And Brian confirms that he's definitely going to Darby's show. He checked the calendar because he has a calendar now.
Yeah.
And the full moon isn't for a few nights after the show. So
Okay.
he should be fine.
Yeah,
Right. We also find out in this moment that Tyler bought Brian a GoPro that he wears on the full moon night so that they can film content of Brian running through the park as a werewolf.
Yeah.
And because Tyler says they're going to need it for the socials, and he thinks that time-lapse videos of this would be great on TikTok.
This book was written in 2023. Just to let everybody know, this book was written in 2023. All right.
We cut back to Brian at Tyler's house, and they're doing training again, weightlifting and jujitsu. Tyler's thrown in jujitsu because he believes a certain militarism is needed to unify the pack. It's the best for self-optimization. He is also getting even more into mantras. He says that they need 365 mantras minimum on launch day. They need a mantra for every single day. Brian still thinks mantras are dumb.
Yeah.
He is like, I hate them, but he doesn't argue with Tyler because of all the positive changes. So he's like, it's one thing. I'm not going to poke holes in the framework. That could work for some people, just not me.
Yeah.
Also, sidebar, this whole time, like all these months they've been working together, Tyler does leave sometimes he goes to Europe or travels around because he is actually monitoring stories in the news where he thinks they might be werewolves.
Okay.
So like stories of the jogger going missing, that's where he's like, oh, let me go see if that's a werewolf so I can recruit them for the pack. So Tyler's
But it turns out it's just Republicans.
Yep. And
Just
that's
dead-eyed
actually, I believe, how he found Brian. It's because
Okay.
this was the second time in that park something like that happened.
Mm.
So I guess somehow Tyler made himself available to be there to witness it or something.
Yeah.
Because again, he knows when the full moon is and he knows what park.
Yeah.
So we know that he's been going to Europe. Okay, so Tyler has also been having Brian create listicles for what I assume is a blog. Like things like the best 4-way stretch fabrics for your monthly transformation and how to pack the perfect go bag.
Can I tell you?
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the things I've discovered from doing this podcast, especially, is how we have to lean into the SEO of it all, search engine optimization, and how often it really comes down to, if you really want to reach more people, write a listicle. And I'm like,
I don't want to write a listicle.
I don't want to write. I just want to do a fun thing where
silly
my wife reads a book about a bored gay werewolf to me.
Yeah.
For hours on end.
Yeah.
And they're like, what if you just did like top 5 werewolves? And I'd be like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. But have you ever considered doing a tier list about birds?
Yes.
So anyway, when we were hearing about this listicle situation, because this is Tyler being like, Brian, I think we should do this listicle.
Today they're all written by AI.
And Tyler, whenever something like this happens, Tyler uses the royal we. Like, we really need to mock it up. And Brian is becoming enraged because he's like, every time he says we, he means me.
Yeah.
It's whenever he's like, we really need to do this content, it means me. And so he's like so tired of it. Tyler's still sending him TED Talks all the time. Another thing they've been doing is practicing scripts together. Basically, they pretend to be at the restaurant where there's tough customers played by Tyler, and Brian needs to diffuse the situation. So, like, if the customer's like, this isn't skim milk, I need to speak to the manager. Or in my case, do you have any feta?
Such a very specific.
I have had customers that were so awful I remember them a decade later.
Yeah.
Because of feta cheese.
That was actually almost 15 years ago.
I don't like you.
I know. But yeah, I'll never forget you being like, and she just kept saying feta.
The way she said feta.
Yeah, it's stuck. And then we literally for weeks would every now and then we would be at the grocery store. I'd be like, oh babe, look, feta.
Should we get some feta?
Yeah, and it was for something that doesn't need feta.
It was a goat cheese salad.
Okay.
It was a goat cheese salad.
Do you remember the order? It's crazy.
And then she kept making me, she's like, but did you ask? And I was like, I would know if the restaurant I worked at was so small.
Yeah.
I was like, I know every item on the menu. None of them have feta. That means there's no feta in the house.
Yeah.
it's not a Greek restaurant. It's French.
Yeah.
And then, oh my God. And then she demanded that I go check the walk-in, which in that restaurant, because it's in downtown Center City, is in the basement.
Yeah.
So I had to run down 2 flights of stairs to go check the walk-in. And then there was a line cook in there, and he was smoking a blunt. And I was like, do we have feta? And he looked at me like I was an asshole. And I was like, it's the middle of the shift, and you're smoking a blunt, and I need to find cheese we don't have. And then I went back up, and I told her again, and she's like, I need to speak to the manager. And then she railed into the manager. It was fine. He was a sweaty coke addict.
Yeah.
He deserved it. For not having feta cheese available. And then she wrote on my tip the thing that I was a bad server. And I was like, I don't do the ordering. Anyway, 15 years still mad about it. And the thing is the way that Tyler wants Brian to respond is like, if a customer says, you know, this thing isn't right, you respond by saying, I need you to clarify your expectations. Or if a customer like points out something, you could say something like, when you say X, what I'm hearing is Y. And I need you to explain that to me. And Brian can't figure out how to explain to Tyler that he can't meet entitlement with defiance. He works for tips.
Yeah.
But this is like Tyler's point is that Brian needs to stand up for himself because he's being very passive and all of the resentment is building up and festering, which could cause an issue with his transitions. Or 15 years later, you could still remember the bitch. It was like, it's not the right kind of cheese. But it was called a goat cheese salad on the menu.
Yeah.
I swear to God.
Feta.
Brian doesn't want to point out that he is passive with Tyler because when he has confronted him about certain things, Tyler lashes out at him. One time he confronted Tyler about, you know, the mission and how sometimes the way he describes the mission feels like this innate supremacy, a little Adolphy, if you will. And Tyler flipped out on Brian and was like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Go back to your little waitressing job, blah, blah, blah. And Brian was like, wait, like, are we still role playing? Like, and so after that point, like Ryan just never said anything, like not passive to Tyler.
Yeah.
So later that week, Brian's at work and there's a mom at a table with her kids. I think she has 2 or 3 kids, 2.5 kids. And they're waiting for chicken tenders, grilled cheese, the whole thing. The restaurant's packed to the gills. And every time Brian walks by, the mom is like, can I get an update? Hello? Because again, her kids are fucking wilding out and they need the chicken fingers. And they're being insane. And Brian responded, looked at her and was like, can you read the room? We're busy. When they're done, they'll come out. And so that next morning he woke up and there was a 1-star Yelp review about it. And as soon as he got back to work that night, Nick was behind the bar and she's pissed. And she's like, God damn it, Brian. You know the boss doesn't care about shit. He lets us do whatever we want here, except he cares about the Yelp reviews. And now I have to write you up. And now I'm the bad guy. And she lays into him. He's been being rude to people like for months. And he's so snappy. And he's like, what do you mean? Like, what even is a parsley allergy? And like, if I ask you if you need a drink, how hard is it? Name a beverage. Like, and he's just like trying to defend himself, but still coming off as he's not apologetic.
Yeah.
Anyway, Nick writes him up.
Yeah.
And is like, I'm not sorry. You're being an asshole and I have to write you up.
This is literally me at the end of my old job. When I was like, I actually don't need this anymore. And like, there was a moment where I was like, I don't need this anymore. And I'm like, oh wait, I'm above this.
Yeah.
It's just that fucking weird moment where you're like, oh, I actually am.
But he does need this job.
But I actually am a gay, coked up werewolf. And I'm pretty bored.
You're not bored. If there's one thing we are, is not bored.
Well, you know what I am, though?
What?
I am somebody who needs to use the bathroom.
Oh,
so we're going to take a break. Okay. And when we come back, how about we're going to wrap this up, I think? We're getting close.
We're getting close.
Okay, go.
You keep having to go to the bathroom. It's really slowing me down.
Okay, well, you know, some of us are werewolves. We're back.
So it's fully summer now. We've moved a little bit in time. And they're at the restaurant. Darby is making fun of Brian because he has a copy of Financial Times magazine. And Darby feels this is a cry for help. And Brian's like, it's not a cry for help. I'm thinking about going to business school. And Darby's like, didn't you call business school a capitalist indoctrination of the incompetent middle class? And Brian brushes that off and goes back to counting his end of shift money. And Darby's like, are we going to get drinks? And Brian's like, no, can't do it. I'm going to Tyler's birthday party tonight. And Nick and Darby are like kind of like befuddled, but also like, why didn't we get invited? Because like Darby loves a party. And he doesn't even really have a conversation with them. He like counts his money and then he leaves. He doesn't even say bye really. He rides his bike to the party. At the party, there's a bunch of like rich finance bros, a lot of like grown up frat boys, girly pops in bandage dresses, lots of drinking, drugs, guys in suits doing coke in the bathroom. Tyler introduces Brian to this guy named Mark, who's also in the werewolf program. Oh. And he's actually known Tyler since like college. And Tyler leaves them in a room together to introduce, like, to get to know each other. And Mark is super drunk and super weird. He's like a Ken doll, though, like very handsome, but he doesn't seem to have a lot going on upstairs. And Brian is feeling this like twinge of jealousy because he didn't know Mark existed, and he didn't realize that he wasn't the only guy that Tyler's been working with. And he also thinks it's weird that Tyler never told him about Mark until now.
Yeah, it's totally bizarre.
And he tries to make conversation with Mark, but he's like really drunk and weird, right? This party, he leaves that room with Mark. He's like, oh, I just got to go to the bathroom or whatever. And he does go to the bathroom. He does some coke with some business guys in suits. And then he's going to get a drink, and he meets this girl, Sarah, who is actually Tyler's girlfriend of 10 years. And she's like, oh, I've heard so much about you. And he's like, I did not know he had a girlfriend. He doesn't say that.
Yeah.
But they end up going to the backyard and spend the night smoking cigarettes and drinking. She's very like basic girl vibes.
Is she a werewolf?
No.
Okay.
The party, like as it comes to an end, or like when Brian decides he's leaving, you know what I mean? It's like the party's winding down. Only the people that are Tyler's real friends are there. You know, most of the mishmash have gone. And he's like, okay, I'm an Irish goodbye before anybody like really talks to me. As he's leaving, Sarah is like, oh my God, you have to come on our annual camping trip. Because apparently all the main friend group was talking about their annual camping trip. And Brian is like, yeah, like maybe, but it's really hard to get off from work.
Yeah.
And like, they're like, what do you mean? Just put in PTO. And he's like, that's literally not how it works.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you brought it up earlier. So after this point, he leaves. He's like, yeah, I'll think about it. Whatever. Then we come back days later, and now Tyler's having Mark and Brian do those workouts together, the jujitsu, CrossFit-y workouts, but they're also fighting a lot. They're doing sparring. And Tyler's like having them fight club, if you will. While Brian goes to work after one of their sparring matches, Darby confirms, like, you're definitely coming to my show tonight, right? And Brian's like, yeah, who else is going? And Darby's like, oh, from here it'll be like Nick, Abe, so-and-so. And he's like, oh, Abe is coming? And Darby's like, you need to stop talking shit on him. Like, I like him. And he's the guy I'm dating. And Brian's a real dick about it.
Listen, but it's one of those things we really don't like, unless the person is physically like actually like hurting the person you're dating.
Yeah.
I never talk shit on them while they're dating. I wait them out.
Yeah.
Now, has twice that not worked? Yes.
Yeah.
But they're still happy. They're happier than they probably would have been if I had gotten my way and been told them to just be alone.
Yeah.
But it's fine.
Now, during their Fight Club workouts, the guys are always humiliating Brian. Like, they do like that chanting thing, like, you just gotta quit, you're a quitter, you quit everything, you're gonna lie down and take it like a bitch, blah blah blah. And
do they know he's gay?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
And they're really into this jujitsu thing because like Tyler believes there's a metaphor in jujitsu about redirecting emotions and blah blah. It's a lot.
It's weird. It's actually like weird Orientalism that's been mixed in with the fact that a lot of those different things don't have a hierarchy.
Yeah.
And so these weird psychos and self-help guru people stepped in.
Yeah.
That's how like Andrew Tate and all these other different people have taken over especially the Brazilian jiu-jitsu stuff, and why so many of them ended up on the Joe Rogan podcast and how they ended up changing everything that way.
Yeah.
There's all played together. Okay. Yeah.
So that night after that Fight Club, he goes to Nick's place because they're meeting up there before they go to Darby's big show. And while they're there, Nick really like kind of has a come to Jesus moment with Brian. And it's like, you have to stop talking shit on Abe. It upsets Darby. Stop it. They really like them. Leave it alone. So they go to the show, and the show is incredible. They sing a lot. They do storytelling. There's knife throwing, monologues. Darby is incredibly talented. By the end of the show, everybody is crying. It's like romantic, hopeful, gripping. Like, it's incredible. And so standing ovation, tears in everybody's eyes. And Brian notices that the whole audience is filled with regulars. Because, again, Darby has good relationships with people.
Yeah.
So people paid to go see them. They all go backstage after the show to congratulate Darby. And they're like, you did so great, blah. And Abe shows up with a bouquet of flowers for Darby. And I guess Brian didn't see Abe give them to him, but he turns and is like, oh, where'd you get those flowers? And Darby's like, Abe gave them to me. And then in that moment, Brian actually smells them, and they make him feel so sick that he actually like retches. He's like, bleh. And Darby thinks that is like, oh, he said Abe's name, and then Brian was like, ugh. But he didn't. He was just like literally like feeling sick from the smell of these flowers.
Yeah.
And Darby curses him out, and he's like, we're not friends anymore. Go fuck yourself. You're so fucking mean. And they storm out, and that's like the last time they like really talk for a bit, even though they still have to work with each other.
Yeah.
But Brian gets so flustered by this event that he decides he's going to go on that camping trip. Which, never a good plan.
Yeah.
A camping trip with strangers. He lies to Nick and tells her that she has the flu. They go so he can go on the camping trip. The camping trip was awful. They wake up at 6 a.m. on the first morning to go on a big hike. Brian didn't know about hiking, so he only has Chuck Taylors.
Yeah.
Though it's really weird. Brian gets kind of segued over to the girlfriend group because he's gay, so the men don't respect him to like build tents or stuff. So they're like, you should cook food with the girls. It's like, yeah, it's not good.
Yeah.
He is like really only talking to Sarah because he knows
Are
Sarah.
these also all werewolves?
No.
Okay.
This is just Tyler and Mark's friends from college.
Gotcha.
That go on a yearly camping trip.
Oh, that's even worse too. So you're like you're putting yourself into a thing that they all have exact experience with.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Gross. The nights go on, whatever. Sarah and Brian end up getting into a big fight at the bonfire one night because Sarah asks Brian, is he the boy or the girl in a relationship?
What the fuck?
And then she's like trying to like backpedal. She's like, like, are you a top or a bottom? And he flips out. He's like, why do you think that's okay to ask me?
Yeah.
It's so fucking rude. They get into a big fight. Everybody around the bonfire are straight couples. So they're like, why are you being so offended? Like, it's not a big deal. And Brian kind of like goes to his tent and he's like, I'm not fucking talking to people. That morning, the next morning, Tyler and Mark and Brian go on a lone hike to a different part of the woods where Tyler wants to do like combat training stuff, on this cliff peak. So it's like a beautiful thing. And while Mark and Brian are fighting each other, after they're done, Tyler announces he has a new idea for what he calls the expansion phase. And Tyler says, I have given you all of my mentorship, and you have both grown so strong and capable. Men and werewolves, you have everything you need. I'm going to give you this opportunity to take an advisory and oversight role. New recruits will be your responsibility. And Brian's like, how are Mark and I going to find recruits when you can't find recruits? In his head, he says this.
Yeah.
Because again, Tyler's been flying all over the country and Europe and the world trying to find recruits. So he's like, how the fuck am I, a waiter, going to find recruits? And Brian says out loud, I'm happy to keep doing some of the back end admin stuff and like the website thing, but I wouldn't even know to begin where to start with recruitment. And Tyler's like, there's no worries. When we get back to the city, I'm going to send you a list of high value recruits who will bring something new to the pack with their candidate criteria. The pack isn't just about financial investment, but emotional investment. Brian argues with Tyler, and Tyler growls at him and is like, this is a business decision. 2 recruits by the next full moon. That's my final word on the matter. And if you can't find them, you'll make them. And this is when alarm bells go off on in Brian's head. He's like, what do you mean? And Tyler's like, bite them, maim them, just don't kill them. Surely you can control yourself by now. Once they're fully established in the pack, then each one of them can recruit new werewolves of a similar pedigree, and then they can find 2 people. The easiest way to build a network and sustain the pack.
This is a crypto MLM. This is a werewolf crypto MLM. I've known it from the get-go. I'm so mad about it.
Brian stands up and he's like, the fuck? I thought we were doing this as a community to help and to try to manage these blood curses and stuff. And this sounds like a pyramid scheme. And Tyler laughs at him. He's like, it's not a pyramid scheme. It's just nature. All packs need an alpha, and that's me. Brian starts packing his bag. He's like, fuck this. He's feeling very betrayed. And Mark is sitting there like a dummy. He hasn't said anything. And they start, Brian and Tyler start growling at each other. And Tyler's like, this is my final word on the issue. 2 new recruits by the next full moon. And if you can't find them, you make them. That night, they go back to the campsite. It's super awkward. Everybody's still mad at Brian for freaking out on Sarah.
Yeah.
And now Brian is mad at Tyler and also thinks Mark's an idiot, whatever. He goes back to his tent. He's just like drinking whiskey and like until he falls asleep because they're all leaving in the morning. Fun fact though, while he's in his tent, Mark sneaks in his tent, a little drunk, and they fuck.
Okay.
Secret Mark fuck.
Okay.
He goes to work when he gets back. He admits to Nick that he lied. And she's like, duh. Whatever.
It's a restaurant. Everyone lies.
We're lying. And she helps him with all of these scrapes, bruises, and rashes. He has like poison ivy from all the wrestling they did in the woods and the hiking. And so as she's nursing him back to health, like giving him ointments and stuff. Darby's still not talking to him.
Yeah, fair.
At the end of the shift, Brian goes out to the cigarette area, the bench out front, and apologizes to Darby. Darby does not let him have the apology easily. He's like, you've been an asshole for quite a while. Your vibes are bad. And Brian's like, I'm truly sorry. I need to make this up to you. I will give Abe a chance. I'm sorry I said things. And Darby is like, Abe's a great guy. He's really wonderful to me and super protective. And he says, look, he even gave me this. And he pulls out a gun from their purse. I was like, a gun gift. Fun.
Yeah.
Since the camping trip, Brian has been able to regain a sense of balance in his life. He hasn't seen Tyler since he got dropped off from the camping trip. He blocked him on WhatsApp group, or he left the WhatsApp group. He quietly retired himself from the admin work. He removed himself from all the emails. He scrubbed the GoPro footage and the before photos from the beta version of the website. He's done with them. Now that he's freed up from the pack, he's been able to spend more quality time with Nick and Darby. Their after-hours bar trips are back, but he's moderating his drinking. He has kept pieces from Tyler's program that worked for him. So, like, he's still working out. He doesn't do the mantras. He fucking hates the mantras. But he likes the meditation and the jogging. And he really hates that the common advice of fresh air and exercise actually works.
Yeah.
He hates that.
Yeah. It's the worst.
Yeah.
When you're depressed and someone's like, take a shower, clean your room, and go outside. And you're like,
shut up.
no, that can't be that easy. And it's
then
like, yeah, it
really is.
It really
Take
is.
the dog for a walk. Oh my God. Tyler this whole time is still trying to contact him though. He calls and he texts, but Brian doesn't answer. He shows up on Brian's Twitter account. Brian soft blocks him on every app on his phone, but every few days or so he sends a flurry of texts, and the restaurant customers frown because his apron vibrates from all the text messages. And then Tyler leaves a voicemail on the phone of Romanesco, and Nick plays the voicemail and is like, what is the deal with this guy? And Brian comes clean. He's like, Tyler was my life coach, and he did like this training program with me. He didn't tell them about the werewolf part. He's like, it ended poorly, and I just want to move on. And they're like, okay, but he's not a mind reader, so you actually have to say it out loud. You can't just like soft back away from everything.
Like a quitter. What?
So
I'm not wrong.
Let's see. I lost my spot. So after they talk, Brian sends a text message. And he's like, if it wasn't clear from everything I've said at the camping trip and my absence over the last month, I'm done. I'm out. It's over. And right after he hit send, his phone starts ringing, and Tyler called him and left a voicemail. Brian still feels bad the next day. He's trying to distract himself by looking at porn, and spent the afternoon lying in bed on a TikTok rabbit hole watching Disney adults in their 40s cry when they met Mickey. And then he started watching a live stream of a woman scratching off hundreds of lottery tickets that he got super into, but then she referred to all the people watching as her scratcher community, and he threw his phone and closed the app, or closed him through the app.
The one thing I ran into at the very end, Rooster that wears jeans.
Yeah. Yep.
Super obsessed with it.
Love it.
Yep.
Kermit the Frog at the strip club.
Yep. Yeah,
Froggiana.
Froggiana. There was also a different Kermit that would crash out and would drink Jack Daniels and curse out anyone who threw money at him.
Yeah.
Different Kermit.
So he goes. Brian goes to Romanesco, and when he starts to go, he's walking to work, right? And it looks busy from the outside. He's getting closer, and as he's getting closer, he sees Tyler's there, and Tyler's like, "No, like you need to come back, blah blah." And so basically, Tyler's like, you need to join us. You need to help build this thing that we've been working on. Mark is already working on recruitment. And Brian's like, you're insane. What do you mean Mark is working on recruitment? Tyler's like, yeah, we've identified a few people that are in the city that have power and influence. They can fill the gaps in our organization, you know, that type of thing. And Brian's like, this is crazy. You've lost your fucking mind. You shouldn't werewolf innocent people for your multi-level marketing scheme. And Tyler's like, it's not a scheme, Brian. It's a movement. And Brian's like, it's not a movement. It's a power grab. And I'm not going to do it. And Tyler gets really, really angry. And he's like, just so you know, if you don't do it, I am going to report you to the cops for that jogger. And he's like, how are you going to do that? And he's like, when you were on the camping trip, you borrowed my sleeping bag and pillows and all this stuff because he didn't own camping gear. Yeah. And he's like, and I'm sure that it all has your DNA on it. And I know that that jogger has your DNA on it. And if you don't do what I say, I'm going to report you to the cops. So then he's like, okay, like he has to work his shift and he can't really focus because he's like, oh my God, this is crazy. And I don't want to do this thing for Tyler, but I need to. And so then he goes home and he has like a come to Jesus moment. And he's like, I have to tell my friends, right?
Okay.
Wait, I lost my page. Oh no. Tyler wants me to join. Okay. So he needs to tell his friends what's going on. And he's like, I really got to tell them. I don't want to tell them. What am I going to do? And he's like really mulling it over. But the transition is coming up. And he's like, I can't tell them now. It's too close to transition time. So that night is the transition. And he wakes up that next morning and in the park that he always wakes up in. And next to him is Mark's dead body. And he's missing an eyeball. And he's like, holy shit. So he runs out of the park before anybody can see him.
Yeah.
And he checks though. He checks to make sure that nobody's around. Later that day, he goes back to work that night. He's heading to Romanesco and he sees Tyler again. And Tyler's like fuming. He's clearly like red in the face, man. He's like, you killed Mark. You killed my best friend. You killed Mark. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't even remember last night. And he's like, you remember now. I know that you remember now because I trained you how to remember. And he's like, I don't know what happened. I don't know if I killed Mark or whatever, but fuck Mark, because what Mark was going to do was morally bankrupt anyway. And fuck you for having Mark do it. He was an idiot. And he's like, Tyler's like, well, you only didn't like Mark because he rejected you. And he's like, because apparently Mark had told this whole story about how Brian was hitting on him and they never slept together. But so he's like, listen, you're going to make the recruits next full moon, or I'm going to make you, or I'm going to hurt you. And then he's like, no, you know what? I'm just going to hurt you no matter what. And he looks into the restaurant and there's Nick and Darby. And that's when Brian realizes that he has to protect them because the next full moon, Tyler's going to come back and kill his friends. So he's like, okay, I have to tell them. So they come over. I'm sorry. He texts them that the next day or whatever. And he's like, guys, I need you to come over.
He texts who?
Darby and Nick.
Okay.
And he's like, can you come over? I have something really important I need to tell you. And they come over and they're like, this is the first time they've ever been to his apartment. And there's like still packed boxes. And they're like, this is exactly what we thought would be here. And he sits down with them and he's like, listen, I'm a werewolf. And they're both like, yeah. And he's like, aren't you guys freaked out? And they're like, of course not. We've known. And they're like, and Brian starts ugly crying because he's like, this is the first time he's been honest since his parents. And people are just like, yeah, okay. And when Brian calms down, they're like, Nick is like, yeah, I had my suspicions, but then I saw all your requests off that were always on the full moon and how you're always like coming in with poison ivy and all this stuff. And they start talking about how they've had all these things they've noticed that they were just like, yeah, we just figured you were a werewolf and we've been waiting for you to tell us the whole time. And Darby has a bottle of champagne because when they got the text message.
That's the worst coming out, which I've actually been in the room for.
Yeah.
When someone's come out and everyone's like, oh my God, it's been so hard for me to say. And everyone's like, yeah, we know.
Yeah.
And it's like, now they don't even have a good story. That sucks.
So they're like, listen. So he's like, listen, they have champagne. They celebrate because Darby's like, when you sent the text message, I thought you might be finally coming out to us about the werewolf thing. And so they have champagne and Brian's like, listen, there's more to this. Tyler's also a werewolf. He wasn't just my life coach. And he's going to try to kill you guys in revenge because I might have, I don't know, killed his best friend, Mark, another werewolf. So they come up with this game plan. They're going to go to Romanesco on the night of the full moon. And they're actually going to close early. Nick doesn't tell the owners, which I love. They're like, they just start shooing the restaurants out, the customers out, and not seating after like 8 or whatever. And they start to like blockade the walls after everybody leaves. And they basically have a plan that like they're going to barricade themselves in, and then they know that Tyler's going to show up, and and Brian's going to attack Tyler while he's in werewolf form. Tyler does show up. He breaks through the glass window. There's a big fight scene, which I'm not going to do justice, which is why I should get the book from the library and read it because it's really good.
Yep.
And then actually Brian ends up getting beat up by Tyler because he does all the goddamn jujitsu. So he gets beat up because, again, your whole thing is like he doesn't need it, but he's just even stronger. So he beats him up as a werewolf and he's like kind of laying on the ground. And now Nick and Darby are hiding like behind the bar and like trying to figure out what to do and like throwing chairs or whatever. And then Darby goes, wait, I have a gun. So then they shoot the werewolf, and he shoots off. They shoot off quite a few bullets, and they end up hitting the werewolf right between the eyes, right through the middle of the forehead, and out through the back. And the werewolf Tyler falls to the ground, and like he transforms back into a naked blonde 30-something-year-old guy on the floor. Right. So he did die.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Good.
Tyler's dead.
Thank God.
Tyler is dead.
Ugh. I've been waiting for that moment.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for that moment for hours. Tyler's dead.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God. Also, I'm glad it didn't have to be a silver bullet.
Okay, so they're cleaning up. They end up rolling his body up in like a carpet and putting it in the restaurant dumpster out back. And they're cleaning up all this stuff because there's a lot of broken glass and everything. And they realize that the bullets are stuck in the wall. And they're like, oh, we got to pull these out because they're going to claim it was a break-in.
Yeah.
It was a break-in. And when Brian, by the way, Brian has transformed again in the morning, and they're sweeping, and they pull the bullets out, and guess what? They're silver bullets. You were wrong. Shut up.
What?
Shut up.
Where the fuck do you get silver bullets from?
And so it turns out Darby's like, I don't know. I didn't buy the bullets because Brian's like, why did you have silver bullets this whole time? This was crazy. Why did you have these? And Darby's like, I don't know. Abe just gave them to me.
Is Abe a vampire werewolf?
So then
hunter?
they're like, we got to find Abe. How the fuck did he know that we needed silver bullets? So all of a sudden, there's Abe in the background. He's been outside the whole time, eyes on the situation. Abe takes him to their flower store where Brian almost gets sick because a lot of the outside of the flower store has this flower that makes him feel ill called wolfsbane.
All right, that's good. That's good writing. That's good writing.
And they get through the floral shop and they go into the basement. And it turns out there's like this whole like dungeon, library, laboratory situation because Abe is actually Abraham Van Helsing, who's works in the mystical realm to monitor mystical beings, and he's actually been monitoring Tyler for years because he knew Tyler was bad. And so he actually only showed up at the restaurant because he saw Tyler go there, try to recruit Brian, and that's why he stayed around. But then he accidentally fell in love with Darby, and they're his soul person, and so he's staying for Darby. Okay. And then it turns out that actually Abe is the one that shot Mark in the eye with a silver arrow. That's why Brian doesn't remember it, because Abe was in the park monitoring the situation, and he took him out. And then when he took the arrow out of his head, it actually popped the eye out.
Okay, yeah.
So, so we find that out, and everybody's just kind of like, okay, although there was one really good line. I have to read it to you. So when they find out that Abe, his real name, Abraham Van Helsing, Nick and Darby are like, oh my God. And Brian's like, what does that mean? And Nick says, I quote, with love, truly, I'm begging you to open a book sometime. Literally, any book will do. You probably read the equivalent number of words doom scrolling Twitter every day. Pardon me.
That's pretty true.
I was like, that's the best line.
That's pretty true.
I love that.
Except I do it on Blue Sky.
Yeah, Blue Sky. So it turns out Abe's been watching and monitoring this whole time, making sure that Darby's safe.
The reason why he retched was because it was literally Wolfsbane.
It was Wolfsbane, that's why. And in the end, Abe is like, listen, the three of you, I think we could all really work together. There's a lot of mystical beings. There's a lot of things I have to keep track of. Brian, with your experience, I think you could be really useful to a team if we were to build one. Darby, Nick, with your medical stuff, like we could really just. And Nick's like, well, we're definitely getting fired. So, like, okay. And so they say like, oh, like they like the offer, and Brian's like, well, you know, we shouldn't really make a decision right now because we're all super stressed out from fighting, and Nick's not super feeling well. And we find out that Darby's actually coming down because they thought it'd be a really good idea to take Molly right before the attack. So they were on Molly the whole time, which is incredible. And then they all take a deep breath, straighten up, turn around back to Abe, and they say, we're in. And Brian says, at least we won't have to taste the same taste over and over again.
That's so good. That's the end of the book?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. You know, one thing that was very interesting
What?
that I was surprised you didn't say at the very beginning.
What?
I opened this book at one point, and I read the little forward note,
Yeah.
which I'll hold up on the monitor right there. It says, for anyone who has ever cried in a walk-in refrigerator,
That's us, baby.
which is, oh, my God.
Yeah, that's us.
Incredible book.
I know. I was so excited.
Incredible book.
I was so
It's
excited
such
about
a
this
good book.
episode.
It's such a good one.
It has everything.
It
Gay
does.
werewolves, drugs, the restaurant industry, an MLM scheme, alpha males.
It has everything.
It has
really
everything.
does. It really does pull a lot together. And my God, you did a great job retelling it.
Thank you.
So with that, I want to say that I really enjoyed this book. So if you guys get a chance, Bored Gay Werewolf by Tony Santorella, you can go check it out.
Yeah.
And we're also going to do something a little different that we haven't done in a long time.
What's that?
Which is we're actually going to give a shout out to all of our new Patreons at the end of this book club episode. Usually we don't do it for book clubs, but we've been going through a lot, and you've been going through a lot, so I don't want you guys to have to wait for it. So if you want to join our Patreon or you want to find out more of our ad-free content, find us on Pearlmania500.net or listen around for some good deep dive lore on Mrs. Pearlmania and myself, and also some very funny names. We'll be right back with this.
Pearlmania, 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 Pearlmania 500.
.net if you want to join our Patreon, Pearlmania500.net or patreon.com/Pearlmania500. And we have 21 people to say
fucking go.
hello to and hey huns to. We're going to start off with Mishmash.
Mishmash. Hey, hun. I like that name a lot.
I like it a lot too. After that, we have Kira Brennan.
Hey, hun.
After that, we have Leanne Florence.
Hey, hun.
After that, we have Oliver Harrison.
Love the name Oliver. Hey, hun.
We have a couple Olivers in here, actually.
yeah?
We also have Oliver Spencer L. Lukasik.
Hey, Oliver. Hi, Oliver. I was
Yeah.
going to say other Oliver, but it's not fair.
Yeah, that's a great Oliver Spencer L. Lukasik. After that, we have Papa Palpatine.
Papa Palpatine.
Papa Palpatine.
Air horns, baby. Bow, bow, bow.
After that, we have MEO.
MEO.
After that, we have Aubrey Strong.
Hey, hun.
That's a good name,
I like
Aubrey
that.
Strong.
That's like a roller derby name.
That is a roller derby name. I like that a lot. After that, we have that chick from Colorado.
I love that chick from Colorado.
Yeah, that's a good name.
Hey, hun.
After that, we have Amanda Lilly.
Hey, hun.
After that, we have Pedro Gonzalez.
Hey, hun.
After that, we have Kira.
Kira Nerys is listening.
I know
She's
from
my
Deep
favorite.
Space Nine.
She's my favorite.
I know she's so amazing.
Kira Nerys is my favorite.
Hi, Kira.
Hey, hun.
After that, we have Nikki Sticks.
Isn't that the guy from that band?
You're thinking Nikki Sixx.
Ah.
Yeah, that's from, what's that band? With Tommy Lee Jones?
Yeah.
Not Tommy Lee
Tommy
Jones.
Lee Jones. God,
No.
we are fried, dude.
Listen, it's been a long week. We didn't get a lot of sleep because literally every day at 7:30 in the morning, about 20 men climbed on our roof and just started hammering everywhere. It's been wild.
And that's how the porn starts.
After Nikki Sticks, we have Dominic Ontiveros.
Hey, hun.
After that, we have goddamn Shadow Daddy issues.
Shadow Daddy rocking a world.
Hey, hun.
After that, we have Gina Bobina.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah,
Gina Bobina,
the
banana, banana,
smile on your face right now for Gina Bobina.
I love it. Hey, hun.
After that, we have Alyssa.
Hey, Alyssa.
After that, we have half_man_half_horse_all_power.
That's a lot to lead in with. Hey, hun.
Half man, half horse, all power.
Let's go.
You know what? That's the very centaur in my life.
I like that.
After that, we have Megan Kreikler.
Hey, hun.
And finally, our last Patreon joining us this evening for this episode is Girl, Leave Him.
Facts. If he's not a Spencer to your Heidi,
No.
if he's not Alex to your Mrs. Pearlmania, leave him.
Listen, all I'm saying is, girl, you can do better.
Yeah.
Look at me. You can do better. Look at me in the eye. You can do better.
If he's not a ham to your Sola,
No.
leave him.
So with that, I think this has been a really great episode.
It's been the best episode.
I've had such a good time.
Yeah.
I hope y'all had a good time. I hope that we were able to help you
Have
for
a good
couple
time.
hours today.
Yeah.
And now we need to come up with our final statement of what we want everyone to write in the comments, Mrs. P.
I mean, cry in the walk-in?
I don't want them to say cry. I don't want to
okay,
say cry.
Oh, that's
no,
sad.
I got it. I
What
got
is
it. Get down there. If you made it to the end of the episode, please write in the comments, giggling in the walk-in.
Giggling in the walk-in.
Giggling in the walk-in.
Because we were smoking blunts in the walk-in. That's what happened.
You know what? Type smoking a blunt in the walk-in.
Hell yeah, dude.
Type smoking a
Hell
blunt
yeah,
in the
dude.
walk-in. Because that is how we're going to get through this week.
2025.
With 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028,
And
20,
on.
and
Blunts
on and
in
on
the
and on.
walk-in.
We're all going to smoke blunts in the walk-in. Thank you guys so much. We will see you in a future episode. We'll be back every Sunday, 5 p.m. is when we drop our episodes. And also sometimes on Wednesdays, we do our warm-up. And also we will have pretty soon a new Vibing Out with the Food Moron. Mrs. P told me, guess what? We're thinking soup, right?
For our family.
Too many frauds and too many scammers that we wish weren't real. Too many cons and too many spammers, and we're starting to feel like we've got too many tabs open. It's too many tabs. Remember to smile.